It's almost over. The pain is almost over. Honestly, that would have been a great idea to man, the sun is not favorable right now. It's like partially cloudy and it's gonna mess up this, so I gotta draw the blinds, which is a bummer because it's we need light. But it would have been hilarious if I did a stream at like 12 p.m. my time, because it feels appropriate that this book should end in the dead of night. I wonder if there is gonna be some dead of night thing. Maybe like they're gonna smuggle little Catherine out in the dead of night. I wouldn't mind that. Oh, we're almost done though. All right, let me, yeah. Yeah, if you see a weird time, just let me know in the Discord. Thank you, Kendrick, for letting me know. Because AM and PM, who knows the difference between AM and PM? Come on. I should just go on military time. Wait, where is this? Is this like from this window or the other window? Oh, that's a bummer. That didn't do anything. I have to draw that window even more. Trees in the way. That still didn't do anything. What the heck is this window? Is this one? Oh, it is this one. Ah, bummer. Now we're going to be really in the dark. Hold on. Now I have to undo this blind. And this blind doesn't work, so I got to roll it up by hand. Sorry, you guys are getting a nice view of my belt loops. Wait. What a way to start a stream. Did that fix things? All right, now we're cooking. Now we're cooking. A little bit of extra light. All right, we made it, guys. I don't think there's going to be any redemption in this book, to be completely honest. I don't think we're going to get any redemption in this book at all. I think we're going to end on a sour note. That's my guess. She's too depressing to end on something happy. These characters are too insane to end on something happy. But we'll see. We'll see. Amazing stream. Struggling with light. Also, everyone liked the stream. Also, I have a subscription to Artlist, so I use music from them. So hopefully we don't get copyright flagged on that. But we'll see. Two things. I forgot the first thing. No, Scarlet Pimpernel next. I'm excited for it. It's a shorter one. It's like 2/3 the size of this. So it's probably gonna take us March to read it. I think it's gonna be an easy read too, because apparently it's like a children's classic. So I'm excited for that. I need to brighten up the camera one little bit. Did that brighten it or darken it? That brightened it. Honestly, that would be so fun to do a cooking segment for every single book. What will we cook for this one? Honestly, that's a great idea. Every book we would cook something. That kind of sounds fun. Do like a little stream where we call or we cook something. No, I think it's going to take us till the end of March. A dish I hate the most. The moist. A moist dish. Gruel. He would spit in our foreheads. For sure he would. I hate Joseph in this book. He's the worst. It'd be kind of fun to do like a little cooking stream, like cook something. Has there been any food mentioned in this? Let me look this up. You guys got to help me out here too. Food in Wuthering Heights. tea, bread, porridge, milk, cheese, and spiced cakes. I don't remember anything about spiced cakes. Maybe we'll do some porridge. But we'd have to like cook it. We'd have to cook it like they do in that time. It'd be kind of fun. Let's brainstorm that. What will we have cooked for Pride and Prejudice? Oh, boiled potatoes, of course. But are the boiled potatoes in the book? I think they're in the book. Are they in the book? Honestly, gruel is oatmeal porridge. What is gruel? Honestly, gruel sounds like we should cook it because this book, again, yeah, is grueling. Cooking gruel because Wuthering Heights is grueling. Tasting history. Yeah, it's a good channel. Someone recommended that a few weeks ago when I was talking about something. And I've been watching a few of this stuff. Not that much, but I kind of like doing like small little cooking things. I did a cooking thing on the Lord of the Rings channel that I have, which most of you probably subscribe to. And my mom doesn't watch most of my stuff, but she watched that one. And she was like, oh, that was fun. And we were chatting about what the differences between different kinds of flour were and all that kind of stuff. And it was fun. She was giving me recommendations, all that kind of fun stuff. All right. Why do we only have 11 people watching? We've just dropped. People can't watch this anymore. Jay, what's up? Welcome back. You missed 6 chapters. So you missed 6 chapters, but have you finished the book yet? Because it's your first time reading too, right? Yeah, we're chatting around over here. Cast iron pot over a fire. That'd be kind of fun. I like go to a campsite in the woods or something like that and make porridge like Joseph makes porridge. So Scarlet Pimpernel is next. I'm guessing that's probably going to take us March, the month of March. Maybe a little less. And then after that, so this is the next thing that I've been looking at. I've been looking at Dickens, but it is actually shocking to me how much longer Dickens books are than anything else that we've read. Even one of his shortest ones, not like A Christmas Carol is the shortest one, but even one of his really short ones, which is like A Tale of Two Cities, is, I think it's 20 to 30,000 words longer than this novel, which this wasn't that long of a novel, but it's longer than Pride and Prejudice. So I want to do a Dickens really bad. So we're eventually going to get there. And I was thinking about Tale of Two Cities, but I was also looking at, I know Dickens was paid by the word, so that's why. Yeah, Dickens is not as long as Dumas. That's true. Anytime I see that name, I just think of Shawshank Redemption. The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexander Dumbass. That's one of the best lines in any piece of literature or any piece of film. But most Dickens is a little lengthy because he was paid by the word. But I didn't know Great Expectations is longer too. Great Expectations, they say it's one of his shortest, but it's like double the size of this. It's almost 200. I think it's like 180 to 200,000 words. And this is, I think, like 115. Oh, no, I think this one's actually 90. I think this one's like 90,000. Maybe I'm wrong about that. I looked it up once. I forgot. I've heard Bleak House is surprisingly funny. And I like Bleak House. I'm really excited for Dickens, but it's going to be a bit more of a commitment, which I think we're ready for. So Scarlet Pimpernel and then probably a Dickens, but I'm not sure which one yet. Like I want to do A Tale of Two Cities, but I feel like A Tale of Two Cities, people say that it's different from the rest of Dickens. It doesn't give you like a true sense of Dickens, which I'm curious about. We'll get there when we get there. Great Expectations took you ages to read, and you're a fast reader. Interesting. Wait, Scarlet Pimpernel isn't considered a children's book? I thought it was. I gotta sneeze. Hold on. Ooh, Wishbone. What a great... Oh, it's coming. It's probably gonna go away. It's lingering too long. Oh, it's going away. That's a bummer. I love a good sneeze. Okay, Scarlet Pimpernel is going to go quicker. Good. Yeah, we are definitely going to do the Count of Monte Cristo. I think that'll probably be the long read that we do this year. It'll probably be the Count of Monte Cristo. Yeah, what's up with the advertisements? Every time we get an advertisement, why are we getting more advertisements than usual? I need to sort that out. The Horns of Gondor. I know, nothing worse than a failed sneeze attempt. No joke. I'm with you. Ooh, there's a whole series on the Scarlet Pimpernel. Excellent. I need good thumbnails. That was what I was looking up. I was looking up before Scarlet Pimpernel, and I couldn't find any. We got to figure out what to do with thumbnails. That's the thing that I think is going to be a struggle. When we get to a book that doesn't have... I mean, this is going to be a rarity with classics because most classics have some kind of... there you go. Most classics have some kind of TV or movie adaptation, so it won't be that much of a problem. But some of them are we're gonna struggle on coming up with thumbnails. So we'll see about what we do with thumbnails for videos. Yeah, it's true. There's definitely gonna be art of it. I just gotta get permission. It just takes more work for me. Emailing people asking, can I use your artwork for thumbnails? Imagine doing that for a thumbnail that comes out on a video twice a day. We have 2 videos a day, which I don't know if we're going to do that for every single thing. It just depends on how much we talk about for the book. Maybe the Scarlet Pimpernel is going to be a really, really talkative book, and maybe we'll have 3 videos a day, but I doubt it. Generally, I'm probably going to keep it to 2 videos a day. And if there's a book that's like, we have to talk about it less, then we'll probably just do 1 video a day. And eventually I'll probably get to the point where the 2nd video a day is just members. But I'm going to grow the channel a little bit before we get there. Oh, hello, Wes. You're just so handsome. Wes is looking at me. He's standing on the bed just looking at me. Aw. He never does that. He went over to my pillow and is just resting on my pillow. What a cutie. Scarlet Pimpernel was your first movie introduction to Ian McKellen. That's cool that he's in that. I love that. Well, okay, yeah, we can't get out of the 19th century, but a lot of the classics that we're going to read are 18th and 19th century. I mean, we can do like earlier stuff, but we can't really get to we can't get a lot to the 20th century because that's not in the public domain yet. Some of it is. Scarlet Pimpernel was, it's a book about the French Revolution, but it's 20th century written. But we're almost, guys, this is the last read of Wuthering Heights. Praise be. Canterbury Tales would be a great read. Actually, that's we got to do that. I'd be all for that one. Little Don Quixote. Give me like a top rank of books 18th century and earlier. Wes is lovesick right now, guys. It's really cute. There's a dog down the street from me that is in heat. She's a puppy, and she's had her first heat. And Wes has been very smitten with that pup. They're like good buddies already. And Wes just looks at the window like pining for her. He was crying the other day because she was nearby. And he was crying, and he never does this. He cries. He was crying and then howling in the midst of his cries. Just a lovesick pup over there. Yeah, I think Iliad and the Odyssey. Shakespeare, some people, I was going to do Shakespeare, but some people said El Quixote, aka Don Quixote. Is El Quixote something different from Don Quixote? I was going to read some Shakespeare, but some people said Shakespeare is better viewed than read. Yeah, I am the real villain for making you guys read it. But Nemo, you like this book, so you can't call me the villain if you like this. No. You can't compare my dog to Kathy. Come on. My dog is a healthy dog. Yeah, well, we're gonna do which Greek epic should we start with? Because we're gonna do one Greek epic this year. Maybe we'll just do a few different like century books from every century. The Iliad for sure. Okay, so we'll start with the Iliad. Odyssey. I know I wanted to do the Odyssey to tie with the movie, but everyone says the Iliad first. So we'll do the Iliad first, and maybe we'll have back-to-back months where we'll do the Iliad and the Odyssey. Maybe we'll do that, guys. When does that movie come out? June? So maybe March we'll do the Scarlet Pimpernel. April we'll do a Dickens. April probably into May. May maybe we'll do something shorter. Or maybe in May we'll start the Iliad, and then in June, July when the movie comes out, I think, we'll do the Odyssey. Is there something in between the Iliad and the Odyssey that we should read? Also, we're going to start reading in 3-4 minutes because we just got to get done with this, guys. Shakespeare is better viewed than read. Tale of Genji. Iliad comes first for characters involved. Okay. Yeah, Persuasion is definitely coming in the fall. More Austen is coming for sure. At least one more Austen book this year. Probably 2. Not going to do another Bronte for a little while. I was thinking about doing Jane Eyre, but I'm like, I need maybe one Bronte a year. That's a good question. Do I only want to read fiction? Probably. I'm good with epic poetry. I would be good with any classic, like even a nonfiction classic, but it would have to be something dazzling. Anne of Green Gables definitely in there. Maybe after the Odyssey. Maybe right at the end of summer. I feel like that'd be kind of a fun time for Anne of Green Gables. Theogony by Hesiod. Herodotus? Interesting. We got a long list of stuff that we need. All right. Well, that's like a rough plan. I mean, we did this before, and then we changed the plan. So just be willing to be ready and be willing, because we're going to probably be changing the plan all the time. So just keep a open mind. All right, you guys ready? Man, you guys know your Greek epics. We're gonna have to get into them pretty soon. All right, 1 second. I'm gonna move my chair so I can prop my feet up better, and then we're gonna start. Hi, Wes. What's up, bud? Oh, you're just so cute. You're such a cutie. All right, chair is properly moved. You guys ready to finish this book? You guys ready to get this done with? Fairlyn, welcome. Next book is probably The Scarlet Pimpernel. And then the book after that is going to be a Dickens. I don't know what Dickens yet. And then the one after that will probably be the Iliad and the Odyssey. And then we'll go from there. We'll figure out. Greek stuff is all you know. All right, guys, here we go. This is, what is this? What's XVI? Chapter 17 for this book? 16? 17? Yeah, it's 17, which is aka chapter 31. Get a little sip of water. Let me get my pencil. And let's begin. I'm so happy that we're going to finish this book today. I'm so happy. Yesterday was bright, calm, and frosty. I went to the Heights as I proposed. My housekeeper entreated me to bear a little note from her to a young lady, and I did not refuse. For the worthy woman was not conscious of anything odd in her request. The front door stood open, but the jealous gate was fastened, as at my last visit. I knocked and invoked Earnshaw from among the garden beds. He unchained it, and I entered. The fellow is as handsome a rustic as needs be seen. I took particular notice of him this time. But then, he does his best apparently to make the least of his advantages. I asked if Mr. Heathcliff were at home. He answered me no. Oh, I forgot this is Lockwood going up here. I asked if Mr. Heathcliff were home. He answered no. But he would be in at dinner time. It was 11 o'clock, and I announced my intention of going in and waiting for him, at which he immediately flung down his tools and accompanied me in the office of watchdog, not as a substitute for the host. We entered together. Catherine is there, making herself useful and preparing some vegetables for the approaching meal. She looked more sulky and less spirited than when I had seen her first. She hardly raised her eyes to notice me, and continued her employment with the same disregard and common forms of politeness as before, never returning my bow and good morning by the slightest acknowledgement. She does not seem so amiable, I thought, as Mrs. Dean would persuade me to believe. She's a beauty, it is true, but not an angel. Earnshaw surlily bid her remove her things to the kitchen. Remove them yourself, she said, pushing them from her, as soon as she had done, and retiring a stool by the window, where she began to carve figures of birds and beasts out of the turnips parings in her lap. That's cute. As I approached her, pretending to desire a view of the garden, and, as I fancied, adroitly, adopted Mrs. Dean's note onto her knee, unnoticed by Hareton. But she asked loudly, "What is it?" and chucked it off. "A letter from your old acquaintance, the housekeeper at the Grange," I answered, annoyed at her exposing my kind deed, and fearful lest it should be imagined a missive of my own. She would gladly have gathered it up at this information, but Hareton beat her. He seized and put it in his waistcoat, saying Mr. Heathcliff would look at it first. Varied, Catherine silently turned her face from us, and very stealthily drew out her pocket handkerchief and applied it to her eyes. And her cousin, after struggling a while to keep down his softer feelings, pulled out the letter and flung it on the floor beside her, as ungraciously as he could. Catherine caught and perused it eagerly. Then she put a few questions to me concerning the inmates, rational and irrational, of her former home. And gazing toward the hills, murmured in soliloquy, "I should like to be riding Minnie down there. I should like to be climbing up there. Oh, I'm tired. I'm stalled, Hareton." And she leant her pretty head against the sill, with half a yawn and half a sigh, and lapsed into an aspect of abstracted sadness, neither caring nor knowing whether we remarked her. "Mrs. Heathcliff," I said, after sitting some time mute, "you are not aware that I am an acquaintance of yours. So intimate that I think it strange you won't come and speak to me. My housekeeper never wearies of talking about you, or talking about and praising you. And she'll be greatly disappointed if I return with no news of or from you, except that you received her letter and said nothing. She appeared to wonder at this speech and asked, Does Ellen like you? Yes, very well, I replied unhesitatingly. You must tell her, she continued, that I would answer her letter, but I have no materials for writing, not even a book from which I might tear a leaf. The stalled mean bored. Probably. Yeah, he's making some moves here. I'm so curious what's gonna happen. I don't think that he's gonna like try to. I mean, I think he might try to rescue her away, but she might be too bitter to do this. No books, I exclaimed. How do you contrive to live here without them? If I may take the liberty to inquire, though provided with a large library, I'm frequently very dull at the Grange. Take my books away. I should be desperate. Or take my books away and I should be desperate. I was always reading when I had them, said Catherine, and Mr. Heathcliff never reads. So he took it into his head to destroy my books. I've not had a glimpse of one for weeks. Only once I searched through Joseph's store of theology, to his great irritation. And once, Hareton, I came upon a secret stock in your room, some Latin and Greek and some tales and poetry, all old friends. I brought the last here, and you gathered them, as a magpie gathers silver spoons for the mere love of stealing. They are of no use to you, or else you conceal them in a bad spirit, that you cannot enjoy them, nobody else shall. Perhaps your envy counseled Mr. Heathcliff to rob me of my treasures, but I have most of them written on my brain and printed in my heart, and you cannot deprive me of those. Earnshaw blushed crimson when his cousin made this revelation of his private literary accumulations, and stammered an indignant denial of her accusations. Mr. Hareton is desirous of increasing his amount of knowledge, I said, coming to his rescue. He is not envious, but emulous of your attainments. He'll be a clever scholar in a few years. And he wants me to sink into a dunce meantime, answered Catherine. Yes, I hear him trying to spell and read himself. And pretty blunders he makes. I wish you would repeat Chevy Chase as you did yesterday. Huh? It was extremely funny. I heard you. And I heard you turning over the dictionary to seek out hard words, and then cursing because you couldn't read their explanations. Chevy Chase? When was this book written? What is Chevy Chase? Is this a poem or something? The name of a poem. Chevy Chase, weird. The young man evidently thought it too bad that he should be laughed at for his ignorance, and then laughed at for trying to remove it. I had a similar notion, and remembering Mrs. Dean's anecdote of his first attempt at enlightening the darkness in which he had been reared, I observed, "But Mrs. Heathcliff, we have each had a commencement, and each stumbled and tottered on the threshold, and had our teacher scorned instead of aiding us. We should stumble and totter yet." "Oh," she replied, "I don't wish to limit his acquirements. Still, he has no right to appropriate what is mine, and make it ridiculous to me with his vile mistakes and mispronunciations. Those books, both prose and verse, were consecrated to me by other associations, and I hate to have them debased and profaned in his mouth. Besides, of all, he has selected my favorite pieces that I love most to repeat, as if out of deliberate malice." Is she just like, she's just, like, she doesn't read this situation well? But does she read it well and she's just bitter? Maybe she's just snappy. Like, obviously Hareton's doing this because he has a little crush. But I wonder if she realizes that he has a crush, or if she's just blind to that because of her bitterness. Or if she just doesn't care and she's bitter in spite of that. Let's keep reading. Hareton's chest heaved in the silence a minute. He labored under a severe sense of mortification and wrath, which it was no easy task to suppress. I rose, and from a gentlemanly idea of relieving his embarrassment, took up my station in the doorway, surveying the external prospect as I stood. He followed my example and left the room, but presently reappeared, bearing 6 volumes in his hand, which he threw into Catherine's lap, exclaiming, "Take them, I never want to hear, or read, or think of them again." "I won't have them now," she answered. "I shall connect them with you and hate them." She opened one that he had obviously been often turned over, and read a portion in the drawling tone of a beginner, then laughed and threw it from her. And listen," she continued provokingly, commencing a verse of an old ballad in the same fashion. But his self-love would endure no further torment. I heard, and not altogether disapprovingly, a manual check given to her saucy tongue. The little wretch had done her utmost to hurt her cousin's sensitive, though uncultivated feelings, and a physical argument was the only mode he had of balancing the account and replaying its effects on the inflictor. He afterward gathered the books and hurled them onto the fire. I read in his countenance what anguish it was to offer that sacrifice to spleen. I fancy that as they consumed, he recalled the pleasure they had already imparted, and the triumph and ever-increasing pleasure he had anticipated from them. And I fancied, I guess, the incitement to his secret studies also. He had been content with daily labor and rough animal enjoyments, till Catherine crossed his path. Shame at her scorn and hope of her approval were his first prompters to high pursuits, and instead of guarding him from one and winning him from the other, his endeavor to raise himself had produced just the contrary result. "Yes, that's all the good such a brute as you can get from them," cried Catherine, sucking her damaged lip and watching the conflagration with indignant eyes. "You'd better hold your tongue now," he answered fiercely. And his agitation precluding further speech, he advanced hastily to the entrance, where I made way for him to pass. But ere he had crossed the door-stones, Mr. Heathcliff, coming up the causeway, encountered him, and laying hold of his shoulder, asked, "What's to do now, my lad?" Naught, he said, and broke away to enjoy his grief and anger in solitude. Heathcliff gazed after him and sighed. "It will be odd if I thwart myself," he muttered, unconscious that I was behind him. But when I look for his father, in his face, I find her every day more. How the devil is he so like? I can hardly bear to see him." He bent his eyes to the ground and walked moodily in. There was a restless, anxious expression in his countenance that I'd never remarked that there before, and he looked spare in person. What is that? Is that him realizing that his revenge mission isn't really like satisfying his actual needs? That's too optimistic. Is tuberculosis doing the Lord's work right here? Come on, tuberculosis. You have a few chapters left. What you doing, bud? Are you coming in to listen to Wuthering Heights, the last chapters? Now you can bear it? He said no, and he left. We can only hope for tuberculosis. His daughter-in-law, on perceiving him through the window, immediately escaped to the kitchen, so that I remained alone. "I'm glad to see you out of doors again, Mr. Lockwood," he said in reply to my greeting. "From selfish motives partly, I don't think I could readily supply your loss in this desolation. I've wondered more than once what brought you here." "An idle whim, I fear, sir," was my answer. "Or else an idle whim is going to spirit me away. I shall set out for London next week, and I must give you warning that I feel no disposition to retain Thrushcross Grange beyond the 12 months I agreed to rent it. I believe I shall not live there any more." "Oh, indeed, you're tired of being banished from the world, are you?" he said. But if you be coming to plead off paying for a place you won't occupy, your journey is useless. I never relent in exacting my due from anyone. Huh. I'm coming to plead off nothing about it, I exclaimed, considerably irritated. Should you wish it, I'll settle with you now. And I drew my notebook from my pocket. No, no, he replied coolly. You'll leave sufficient behind to cover your debts if you fail to return. I'm not in such a hurry. Sit down and take your dinner with us. A guest that is safe from repeating his visit, we can generally be made welcome. Gosh. Catherine, bring the things in. Where are you? Catherine reappeared, bearing a tray of knives and forks. You may get dinner with Joseph, muttered Heathcliff aside, and remain in the kitchen till he is gone. She obeyed his directions very punctually. Perhaps she had no temptation to transgress, living among clowns and misanthropists. She probably cannot appreciate the better class of people when she meets them. With Mr. Heathcliff, grim and saturnine on one hand, and Hareton absolutely dumb on the other, I made a somewhat cheerless meal, and bid adieu early. I would have departed by the back way to get a glimpse of Catherine and annoy old Joseph, but Hareton received orders to lead up my horse, and my host himself escorted me to the door, so I could not fulfill my wish. How dreary life gets over in that house, I reflected while riding down the road. What a realization of something more romantic than a fairy tale it would have been for Mrs. Linton Heathcliff, had she and I struck up an attachment, as her good nurse desired, and migrated together into the stirring atmosphere of the town. I guess I'm a bit shocked that he's leaving like this. Is he gonna come back? Like, how is this gonna end? I thought he was gonna like attempt to rescue her, but I guess not. I can't think that happily. Happy things don't happen in this book. All right, chapter 18. Yeah, Lockwood is a delusional buffoon. Huh. Interesting. Okay. Let's keep going. Yeah, I don't think he has the courage. 1802. This September, I was invited to devastate the moors of a friend in the north, and on my journey to his abode, I unexpectedly came within 15 miles of Gimmerton. The hostler, at a roadside public house, was holding a pail of water to refresh my horses when a cart of very green oats, newly reaped, passed by, and he remarked, Jans Fruit Gimmerton, nah. There is alle 3 wick after other folk with the harvest. Gimmerton, I repeated. My residence in that locality had already grown dim and dreary. Ah, I know. How far is it from this? Happened 14 mile over the hills, and rough road, he answered. A sudden impulse seized me to visit Thrushcross Grange. It was scarcely noon, and I conceived that I might as well pass the night under my own roof as at an inn. Besides, I could spare a day easily to arrange matters with my landlord and thus save myself the trouble of invading the neighborhood again. Having rested a while, I directed my servant to inquire the way to the village, and with great fatigue to our beasts, we managed the distance in some 3 hours. I left him there and proceeded down the valley alone. The gray church looked grayer, and the lonely churchyard lonelier. I distinguished a moor sheep cropping the short turf on the graves. It was sweet, warm weather, too warm for traveling, but the heat did not hinder me from enjoying the delightful scenery above and below. Had I seen it near August, I'm sure it would have tempted me to waste a month among its solitudes. In winter, nothing more dreary, in summer, nothing more divine than those glens shut in by the hills, and those bluffs, bold swells of heath. I reached the grange before sunset and knocked for an admittance, but the family had retreated back into the back premises, I judged by one thin blue wreath curling from the kitchen chimney, and they did not hear. I rode into the court. Under the porch, a girl of 9 or 10 sat knitting, and an old woman reclined on the horse steps, smoking a meditative pipe. Is Miss Dean within? Mrs. Dean within? I demanded of the dame. Mistress Dean. Huh? Nay, she answered. She doesn't bide here. She's up at the Heights. Are you the housekeeper then? I continued. Yeah, I'll keep the haste, she replied. Mistress. Oh, that it just means that she's the woman's boss. Okay. Okay. So this is 8 months later. Okay. Wow, interesting. Well, I'm Mr. Lockwood, the master. Are there any rooms to lodge me in, I wonder? I wish to stay here all night. The maester, she cried in astonishment. When whoever knew you were coming? Ya should have sent word. There's not norther dry nor menseful about the place, now isn't there? She threw down her pipe and bustled in. The girl followed, and I entered too, soon perceiving that her report was true, and moreover that I had almost upset her wits by my unwelcome apparition. I bid her be composed. I would go out for a walk, and meantime she must try to prepare a corner of the sitting room for me to sup in, and a bedroom to sleep in. No sweeping and dusting, only good fires and dry sheets were necessary. She seemed willing to do her best, though she thrust the hearth brush into the grass and the grates in mistake for the poker, and malappropriated several other articles of her craft, but I retired, confident in her energy for a resting place against my return. Wuthering Heights was the goal of my proposed excursion. An afterthought brought me back when I had quitted the court. All well at the Heights, I inquired of the woman. Frau na. Gosh, come on, can you guys just speak normally? Yes, for all I know. Gosh, she answered, scurrying away with a pan of hot cinders. I would have asked why Mrs. Dean had deserted the Grange, but it was impossible to delay her at such crisis, so I turned away and made my exit, rambling leisurely along with the glow of a sinking sun behind, and the mild glory of a rising moon in the front, one fading and the other brightening. As I quitted the park, I climbed the stony road branching off to Mr. Heathcliff's dwelling. Now, I have a little bit of nerves right now. If Nellie is at Wuthering Heights, that makes me a bit nervous that little Catherine is dead. Or that Heathcliff is dead. That he actually got tuberculosis and he died. And now Catherine controls Wuthering Heights? No, I can't get hopeful. That's not going to happen. Or Nellie married Heathcliff, which would be wild. Which I guess if that is actually the case, I could see why some people view her as the villain. But there's no chance. Would that actually happen? Before I arrived in sight of it all that remained of that day was beamless, amber light along the west, but I could see every pebble on the path and every blade of grass by that splendid moon. I had neither to climb the gate nor to knock. It yielded to my hand. That is an improvement, I thought. And I noticed another by the aid of my nostrils, a fragrant of stocks and wallflowers wafted on the air from amongst the homely fruit trees. Both doors and lattices were open, and yet, as is usually the case in the coal district, a fine red fire illuminated the chimney. The comfort which the eye derives from it renders an extra heat endurable, but the house of Wuthering Heights is so large that the inmates have plenty of space for withdrawing out of its influence, and accordingly, what inmates there were had stationed themselves not far from one of the windows. I could both see them and hear them talk before I entered, and looked and listened in consequence, being moved thereto by a mingled sense of curiosity and envy that grew as I lingered. "Contrary," said a voice, as sweet as a silver bell. "That for the third time, you dunce. I'm not going to tell you again. Recollect, or I pull your hair." "Contrary, then," answered another in deep but softened tones, "and now kiss me, for minding so well. No, read it over first correctly without a single mistake. The male speaker began to read. He was a young man, respectably dressed and seated at a table. This has to be Hareton, right? Having a book before him, his handsome features glowed with pleasure, and his eyes kept impatiently wandering from the page to a small white hand over his shoulder, which recalled him by a smart slap on the cheek whenever its owner directed such signs of inattention. Its owner stood behind, her light shining ringlets blending. This has to be little Kathy at intervals with his brown locks, and she bent to superintend his studies. And her face, it was lucky he could not see her face, or it would never have been so steady. I could, and I bit my lip in spite, having thrown away the chance I might have had of doing something besides staring at its smiting beauty. The task was done, not free from further blunders, but the pupil claimed a reward and received at least 5 kisses, which, however, he generously returned. Then they came to the door. Are we actually going to get a decent ending? Heathcliff has to be lurking there somewhere. This can't be happy. There's no chance that this can end in a decent way. Did Hareton murder Heathcliff? Then they came to the door, and from their conversation I judged they were about to issue out and have a walk in the moors. I suppose I should be condemned in Hareton Earnshaw's heart, if not by his mouth, to the lowest pit in the infernal regions if I showed my unfortunate person in this neighborhood then. And feeling very mean and malignant, I skulked round to seek refuge in the kitchen. There was unobstructed admittance on that side also, and at the door sat my old friend Nellie Dean, sewing and singing a song, which is often interrupted from within by harsh words of scorn and intolerance, uttered in far by musical accents. Joseph. Come on. Hold on. I don't know what the heck he says here. What is this, chapter 33? Or 32? 33? Oh, come on, website. Wait, you're telling me that that this is... There's no translation for this. All right, here we go. I'd rather by the half of have them swearing from my lungs for the morning neat, nor hearken ha silver, said the tenant of the kitchen in an answer to an unheard speech of Nellie's. It's a blazing shame. Maybe Joseph's becoming more discernible. Joseph's character arc is 0. All cannot open the blessed book, but you set them up glorious to Saturn some flaysome wickedness that over the were born in the world. Oh, you're right now, and shoes another, and that poor lad'll be lost atween ye. Poor lad, he added with a groan. He's witched. Sartin on, O Lord, judge him, for they northern law nor justice among were rulers. Whatever the heck he said it. No, we should be sitting in the flamingo faggots, I suppose, retorted the singer. But wish, old man, and read your Bible like a Christian, and never mind me. This is Fairy Annie's wedding, a bonny tune. It goes to a dance. Mrs. Dean was about to recommence when I advanced, and recognizing me directly, she jumped to her feet, crying, "Why, bless you, Mr. Lockwood! How could you think of returning in this way, all shut up at Thrushcross Grange? You should have given us notice." "I have arranged to be accommodated there for as long as I shall stay," I answered. "I depart again tomorrow." "How are you transplanted here, Mrs. Dean? Tell me that." "Zillah left. And Mr. Heathcliff wished me to come soon after you went to London and stay till you returned. But step in, pray. Have you walked from Gimmerton this evening? Please tell me he died of tuberculosis. Come on, give me something good." From the Grange, I replied. And while they were making me lodge in a room there, I want to finish my business with your master because I don't think of having another opportunity in a hurry. What business, sir? Said Nellie, conducting me into the house. He's gone out at present and won't return soon. Ugh. About the rent, I answered. Oh, then it is with Mrs. Heathcliff. Oh, then it is with Mrs. Heathcliff you must settle, she observed, or rather with me. She has not learnt to manage her affairs yet, and I acted for her. There is nobody else. I looked surprised. Ah, you've not heard of Heathcliff's death? Oh, I see, she continued. Heathcliff dead? I exclaimed, astonished. How long ago? 3 months since, but sit down and let me take your hat and I'll tell you all about it. Stop, you have nothing to eat, have you? Let's go. Also, okay, so there's a point in me thinking it's so depressing that it ends like this, to be completely honest, because is the only way to stop people like this to give them tuberculosis? Yeah, you've never seen me so happy to see someone dead. This is the happiest death in all of literature. Is death the only solution? Honestly, maybe. Joffrey's death, Heathcliff's death, they're pretty much the same, to be honest. Wow. He's dead, and this place is transformed into a little Eden. I'm happy and I'm disappointed only in the fact that it seems like the solution to this whole thing is just that he dies, which I think is actually the truth, which is a sad truth, to be completely honest. But we'll talk about that in a bit. Let me keep reading. I want to finish the chapter or at least finish this section, because this is crazy. I want nothing. I have ordered supper at home. You sit down too. I never dreamt of his dying. Let me hear how it came to pass. You say you don't expect them back for some time. The young people? No, I have to scold them every evening for their late rambles, but they don't care for me. At least have a drink in our old ale. It will do you good. You seem weary. She hastened to fetch it before I could refuse, and I heard Joseph asking whether it warning or crying scandal that she should have fellies at her time of life, and then to get them jocks out to the maester's cellar. He fair shame to bid still and see it. Whatever he said. She did not stay to retaliate, but re-entered in a minute, but bearing a reaming silver pint, whose contents I lauded with becoming earnestness. And afterwards she furnished me with a sequel of Heathcliff's history. He had a queer end, as she expressed it. If someone says that he has a queer end, does that mean he got slowly poisoned until he died? Doesn't feel like tuberculosis if she says it's queer. Seems like there might be some foul play. Interesting. I'm very curious. Okay. I was summoned to the Heights within a fortnight of your leaving us, she said, and I obeyed joyfully for Catherine's sake. My first interview with her grieved and shocked me. She had altered so much since our separation. Mr. Heathcliff did not explain his reason for taking a new mind about my coming here. He only told me he wanted me, and he was tired of seeing Catherine, and I must make a little parlor in my sitting room and keep with her. It was enough if we were obliged to see her once or twice a day. She seemed pleased at his arrangement, and by degrees I smuggled over a great number of books and other articles that had formed her amusement at the Grange, and flattered myself we should get on in a tolerable comfort. The delusion did not last long. Catherine, contented at first, in a brief space grew irritable and restless. For one thing, she was forbidden to move out of the garden, and it fretted her sadly to be confined to its narrow bounds. As spring drew on, for another, in following the house, I was forced to quit her frequently, and she complained of loneliness. She preferred quarreling with Joseph in the kitchen to sitting at peace in her solitude. I did not mind their skirmishes, but Hareton was often obliged to seek the kitchen also when the master wanted to have the house to himself. And though in the beginning she either left at his approach or quietly joined in my occupations, and shunned remarking or addressing him, and though he was always as sullen and silent as possible, after a while she changed her behavior and became incapable of letting him alone. Talking to him, commenting on his stupidity and idleness, expressing her wonder how he could endure the life he lived, how he could sit a whole evening staring into the fire and dozing. He's just like a dog, is he not, Ellen? She once observed. Or a cart horse. He does his work, eats his food, and sleeps eternally. What a blank, dreary mind he must have. Do you ever dream, Hareton? And if you do, what is it about? But you can't speak to me. Gosh. Then she looked at him, but he would neither open his mouth nor look again. He's perhaps dreaming now, she continued. He twitched his shoulder as Juno twitches hers. Ask him, Ellen. Mr. Hareton, will the master of the house send you upstairs if you don't behave? I said. He has not only twitched his shoulder, but clenched his fist as if tempted to use it. I know why Hareton never speaks when I am in the kitchen, she exclaimed on another occasion. He is afraid I shall laugh at him. Ellen, what do you think? He began to teach himself to read once, and because I laughed, he burned his books and dropped it. Was he not a fool? Were you not naughty, were not you naughty, I said. Answer me that. Perhaps I was, she went on, but I did not expect him to be so silly. Hareton, if I gave you a book, would you take it now? I'll try. She placed one she had been perusing on his hand. He flung it off and muttered, if she did not give over, he would break her neck. Well, I shall put it here, she said, in a table drawer, and I'm going to bed. Then she whispered me to watch whether he touched it and departed, but he would not come near it, so I informed her in the morning to her great disappointment. I saw she was sorry for his persevering sulkiness and indolence. Her conscience reproved her for frightening him off and improving himself. She had done it effectually. But her ingenuity was at work to remedy the injury. While I ironed or pursued other stationary employments I could not well do in the parlor, she would bring some pleasant volume and read it aloud to me. When Hareton was there, she generally paused in an interesting part and left the book lying about, that she did repeatedly. But he was as obstinate as a mule, and instead of snatching at her bait in wet weather, he took to smoking with Joseph, and they sat like automatons, one on each side of the fire. The elder happily too deaf to understand her wicked nonsense, as he would have called it, and the younger doing his best to seem to disregard it. Interesting. On fine evenings, the latter followed his shooting expeditions, and Catherine yawned and sighed and teased me to talk to her, and ran off into the court or garden the moment I began, and as a last resource I cried and said she was tired of living. Her life was useless. Mr. Heathcliff, who grew more and more disinclined to society, had almost banished Earnshaw out of the apartment. Owing to the incident at the commencement of March, he became for some days a fixture in the kitchen. His gun burst while out on the hills by himself. A splinter cut his arm, and he lost a good deal of blood before he could reach home. The consequence was that his gun burst. Maybe that's a more common thing, but a gun bursting? The consequence was that, perforce, he was condemned to the fireside and tranquility, till he made it up again. And it suited Catherine to have him there, at any rate. It made her hate her room upstairs more than ever, and she would compel me to find out business below, that she might accompany me. On Easter Monday, Joseph went to Gimmerton Fair with some cattle, and in the afternoon I was busy getting linen up in the kitchen. Earnshaw sat, morose as usual, at the chimney corner, and my little mistress was beguiling at an idle hour with drawing pictures on the window panes, varying her amusement by smothering bursts of songs, and whispered ejaculations, and quick glances of annoyance at the impatience in the direction of her cousin, who steadfastly smoked and looked into the grate. At a notice that I could do with her no longer, intercepting my light, she removed to the hearthstone. I bestowed little attention on her proceedings, but presently I heard her begin. I found out, Hareton, that I'm glad that I should like you to be my cousin now, if you had not grown so cross to me and so rough. Hareton returned no answer. Hareton, do you hear? She continued. Get off with it, he growled, with uncompromising gruffness. Let me take the pipe, she said, cautiously advancing her hand and abstracting it from his mouth. Before he could attempt to recover, it was broken, and behind the fire. He swore at her and seized another. Stop, she cried. You must listen to me first, and I can't speak while those clouds are floating in my face. Will you go to the devil, he exclaimed ferociously, and let me be? No, she persisted, I won't. I can't tell what to do to make you talk to me, and you are determined not to understand. When I call you stupid, I don't mean anything. I don't mean that I despise you. Come, you shall take notice of me, Hareton. You are my cousin, and you shall own me. This is a little weird. I shall have naught to do with you and your mucky pride. And your damned mocking tricks, he answered. I'll go to hell, body and soul, before I look sideways after you again. Side out of the gate. Now, this minute. Catherine frowned and retreated to the window seat, chewing her lip and endeavoring by humming an eccentric tune to conceal a growing tendency to sob. You should be friends with your cousin, Mr. Hareton, I interrupted, since she repents of her sauciness. It would do a great deal of good. It would to make you another man, to have her for a companion. A companion, he cried, when she hates me, does not think me fit to wipe her shoon? Nay, if it made me a king, I'd not be scorned for seeking her goodwill any more. It is not I who hate you, it is you who hate me, wept Cathy, no longer disguising her trouble. You hate me as much as Mr. Heathcliff does, and more. You're a damned liar, began Earnshaw. Why have I made him angry by taking your part, and then a hundred times? And that when you sneered at me and despised me, and go on plaguing me, and I'll step in yonder and say you worried me out of the kitchen. I didn't know you took my part, she answered, drying her eyes. I was miserable and bitter at everybody, but now I thank you and beg you to forgive me. What can I do besides? I beg you to forgive me. It feels like a beam of light coming through the darkest day in literature. She needs to, I think the whole thing is going to be solved by Hareton here, because he's going to thaw out his heart. It just takes a little bit of forgiveness. She returned to the hearth and frankly extended her hands. He blackened and scowled like a thundercloud. Sorry, Siri is going crazy now. And his fists resolutely clenched and his gaze fixed on the ground. Catherine, by instinct, must have divined it was obdurate perversity and not dislike that prompted this dogged conduct, for after remaining an instant undecided, she stooped and impressed on his cheek a gentle kiss. The little rogue thought I had not seen her, and drawing back, she took her former station by the window, quite demurely. Oh, a little demure. I shook my head reprovingly, and then she blushed and whispered, Well, I shouldn't have done that, Ellen. Well, what should I have done, Ellen? He wouldn't shake hands, and he wouldn't look. I must show him in some way that I like him, and that I want to be friends. Whether the kiss convinced Hareton, I cannot tell. He was very careful for some minutes that his face should not be seen. And when he did raise it, he was sadly puzzled where to turn his eyes. Catherine employed herself in wrapping a handsome book neatly in white paper, and having tied it with a bit of riband and addressed it to Mr. Hareton Earnshaw, she desired me to be her ambassadress and convey the present to its destined recipient. And tell him if he'll take it, I'll come and teach him to read it right, she said, and if he refuse it, I'll go upstairs and never tease him again. I carried it and repeated the message, anxiously watched by my employer. Hareton would not open his fingers, so I laid it on his knee. He did not strike it off either. I returned to my work. Catherine leaned her head and arms on the table till she heard the slight rustle of the covering being removed. Then she stole away and quietly seated herself beside the cousin. He trembled, and his face glowed. All his rudeness and all his surly harshness had deserted him. She could not summon courage at first to utter a syllable in reply to her questioning look and her murmured petition. Real quick thought. It's kind of like, I don't know how to say this. It's kind of like a hot girl can get away with anything. This is like good, but it's still, I don't know. Like, I'm very happy that this is happening, and this is like thawing it out. But there's something in this that she is to some extent manipulating him in the same way that everyone has been manipulating people in this novel. And I guess maybe one of the key things is that everyone manipulates no matter what you do. But manipulate people to good and to kindness and to forgiveness, rather than manipulate people to evil and revenge. You know what I mean? Like, be light and be apologetic and kiss someone on the cheek in order to woo them to like you, but don't be nasty to the person when they like you. Yeah, it's not just her attractiveness, but it's still just her manner in going about this is really interesting to me. Like, yes, there's a sweetness to it, but it's interesting to me. And I'm with you too. I definitely do think that she regrets this. She's very sincere about her regret. But now what she has to do is she has to try to win this guy back to him. And in a way, that is, I get, what's the positive word of manipulation? Influence? I think she's trying to influence him to like her to some extent. Like, she knows that he's always kind of had a crush on her. He probably still has a crush on her deep down, but he's a little bitter because she just keeps making fun of him. And so he's like stoned up. But really, when that happens when that happens, I think with a lot of us, maybe guys even more in particular, you still have that crush deep down, but it's just covered up with stone. So she's like thawing out his stony heart right now. That's not a good metaphor. She's chiseling out his stony heart. She's thawing out his frozen heart. And she's doing cute little things to try to win him back to his side. I do think that she is being earnest in this. So I don't discount that. Winsome is a great word for this. So what's the difference between winsomeness and manipulation, really? This is still to some extent a manipulation. The kiss on the cheek is shocking to me because it honestly is super cute. And it's a great question too. I think that this is actually like an you can't change anything. Like, I'm ready to forgive her. I think that Harrington might not be ready to forgive her, but he's trying to figure out ways. But you kind of, there's a point where you have to let someone do it on their own time. Like, you just kind of say your piece. You say, I am sorry for this. Will you forgive me? Like, maybe just be a bit more apologetic with it. But I do think that I think I'm making a note that even when we are seeking forgiveness in some of this kind of stuff, by the technical sense of it, sometimes, like, what is the proper way to seek forgiveness? You, like, in this case, she is trying to win him back to the side, to her side. And in doing that, you do it as a winsome note, and she's adding like flavor onto that, which again, I don't discredit her from this because this is the first positive stuff that we've actually seen in this book. And this is, to be honest, this is lovely and sweet. But any little bit of, and maybe this is a weirdly cynical take, or not really a cynical take, but I don't know. I don't have like the positive words for it. Any bit of love, I take that back. Any bit of infatuation or appreciation for someone, not appreciation, any bit of like limerence toward a person. If I'm trying to, if like, you know, I like a girl, you're trying to like win them to your cause, and that's what she's doing here. So it's genuine and it's sweet at some point. Like the little kiss on the cheek to me is so sweet because I think it is very, very genuine, and she really does want him to like forgive her, and she wants like a friend here, so it's like a desperate thing. But that is still just, it's the positive side of manipulation, which I guess is just winsomeness. I don't know. I'm trying not to be like, I'm not like cynical about this. I'm just saying, I just don't have the correct terminology for some of this. But you know what I mean? Like, I'm definitely not saying that what she's doing is wrong. Definitely not, because I think what she's doing is right. She wants to be friends. Yeah, she definitely wants to be friends with Harrison. Yeah, and I don't necessarily even mind that she's smothering him to some extent. And she does like what she can. She does kind of say her piece. She says, "Will you forgive me?" Gives a little peck on the cheek. That's really sweet to me. And still, even if it's the intentions matter, but sometimes the intentions don't necessarily matter in this. It is just the impact that you have on the person. But like, I don't know if I'm in this situation, I don't know what I would have done. Maybe you just say your piece of forgiveness. Because this is a sad point too, in that I think our society just views everything almost as like as a manipulation, which I do think there's a slight truth to that, but it's not so bad. Like if someone comes up to me and they just start weeping over something, like them weeping is genuine, but it's also a little bit manipulative. Like if they're coming up and they're like asking their forgiveness for me, there's a bit of manipulation in someone coming up and like weeping over their forgiveness, over asking for forgiveness. And I know that's maybe, again, a bit cynical, but I'm not like viewing this as a cynical way. That's just what humans do. So there's an element in like someone's tears, if they're coming and they're saying, "Oh, I'm sorry for what I did to you," that it makes you feel like a bit of a mush. And it makes you more apt to forgive that person. So there's an element of, I think, human nature that we do these things in order to like instinctually maybe you do these things in order to win people back to our side or whatever. It's true, your eyeballs don't control the tears, which is a great point. Yeah, and that's what I'm saying too. So like, and I definitely don't want you guys to misunderstand me. I'm not saying people are crying on purpose to influence the other person. Like, I don't think most people do that, to be completely honest. But I do think it's maybe like an innate human thing that we cry tears because we're looking for a release. And that release to the other person, the impact of that is, oh, your heart softens a little bit for that other person. And I don't think like I'm not viewing like I don't think I'm really asking like, how does Kathy deal with this better? Because I think she actually is dealing with this really well. But I'm just saying like I think this is just kind of I don't even know what I'm saying. And I definitely don't think she's being performative. I think this is like the best thing that she can do, honestly. I think she's doing excellently here. A little peck on the cheek is sweet, but it is still manipulative. And yeah, Jasper, thank you. Manipulation, not negative or positive. Like she's being, let's put a qualifier on it. This is positive manipulation. No. I definitely don't disapprove of her. I know I'm just like saying like maybe it's sounding like this, but I just don't have the terminology to say it. Like I'm trying to use all these words as neutral words, and they're not, because manipulation, we always have a bad sense to it. But I'm trying to say, like, don't think of these words as badly. But I'm just saying that what she's doing now is manipulative in a positive way. Yeah, influence is maybe the better word. But manipulation positively versus negatively. In every other aspect of this novel, people are influencing or people are manipulating each other. And now she's trying to influence him, I guess. Jay, I don't know why you keep saying that I'm being negative about her doing it. I'm not being negative about her doing it. I'm just trying to make a point here that what she's doing is just she's influencing him to forgive her, which is great. Yeah, she's trying to get her way. Exactly. Thank you, General. No, not negative as I think she shouldn't do it. I'm gonna keep reading. Yeah, I just think, yeah, I'll make a quick video about that or something like that. Let me take a quick note. I don't really have the words for this. But yeah, I don't think that what she's doing is wrong at all. But I'm just saying she is doing something to influence his feelings. Yeah, they're definitely both emotionally stunted for some reasons. And I love this because she's trying to thaw him out to some extent. And where she got thawed out is another interesting part because she was really bitter and like what was the cause of her getting thawed out? It just seems like this is like a divine thing. Like how did she just all of a sudden say, you know what, I want to be Harrington's friend right now? I guess she was just so lonely that it just kind of overcame. Yeah, Nellie came back for sure, but it still is interesting. Yeah, most people want forgiveness or at least being off the hook for sure. That's why a lot of people go for forgiveness, to be honest. So Nellie is the hero of this story. All right, let's keep reading. See, because this is it. This is a great paragraph right here. Look at this. I should have read this paragraph before. Whether the kiss convinced Harrington, I cannot tell. The kiss was given to convince him one way or the other. The kiss was a convincing effort. Maybe not purposefully convincing, but this is the difference between intent and impact. She might have pure, perfect intentions on this kiss, but the impact of this kiss is convincing or non-convincing. And I'm just saying humans do that. So it's not the most cool point, but there you go. Let's keep reading. He was very careful then for some minutes that his face should not be seen. And then when he did raise it, he was sadly puzzled where to turn his eyes. Catherine employed herself in wrapping a handsome book. Oh, no, I actually just read that. Hold on, sorry. We're way past that. Say you forgive me, Harrington. Do. You can make me so happy by speaking that little word. I love this. This is great. I think this is really the power of forgiveness. Like, if I were to say what this novel is really about, it is about the power of forgiveness, I think. He muttered something inaudible. "Then you'll be my friend?" added Catherine interrogatively. "Nay, you'll be ashamed of me every day of your life," he answered. "And the more you know of me, and I cannot bide it." "So, you won't be my friend," she said, smiling as sweet as honey and creeping close up. Like, she's being winsome. I overheard no further distinguishable talk, but on looking round again, like, okay, real quick point. Has anybody seen the movie Me, Earl, and the Dying Girl? Yeah, she's trying very hard here. Has anybody seen the movie Me, Earl and the Dying Girl? Tell me one person has seen it so I can talk about this scene real quick. Long ago? Okay, great. It's a great movie, guys. Really, really great coming of age movie. One of my favorites. And it's hilarious too. But there's a scene in this where there's the guy who is essentially he has a massive crush on this girl. And it's like a really creative movie. And he says this one scene where I forgot her name, but he's like, any cute girl that you like is like a big moose and you're like a little chipmunk in the forest, and they just come and they step on you accidentally. And it's like, they don't necessarily intend it, they don't mean it, but any little gesture that they do can destroy a guy for this. And like, there's all these little things that she does that are super pure intention, because this girl is really nice. She like puts her hand on his shoulder when she's like asking him a question, and it just destroys this guy because he's just smitten with her. It's a great movie, guys. Check it out. And then you can watch that scene and you can report back and we can talk about it. But I feel like this is this here. Harrington just kind of has a crush and his heart's thawing out a little bit. And it doesn't matter what she does. He's just a little chipmunk and she's a big moose in the forest walking around, and she might not intend, but she steps on him and his heart is demolished because of it. Anywho. I overheard no further distinguishable talk, but on looking round again, I perceived two such radiant countenances bent over the page of the accepted book. Sweet, that I did not doubt the treaty had been ratified on both sides, and the enemies were, thenceforth, sworn allies. They worked, the work they studied was full of costly pictures, and those in their position had charm enough to keep them unmoved till Joseph came home. He, poor man, was perfectly aghast at the spectacle of Catherine seated on the same bench with Hareton Earnshaw, leaning her hand on his shoulder, and confounding at his favorite's endurance of her proximity. It affected him too deeply to allow an observation on the subject of that night. His emotion was only revealed by the immense sighs he drew as he solemnly spread his large Bible on the table and overlaid it with the dirty banknotes from his pocketbook, the produce of the day's transactions. At length, he summoned Hareton from his seat. "Tak these to the maester, lad," he said, "and bide there and all gangs up to my own romt. The hoyle's northern menseful nor seemly for us. We munt sad ate and search another." Whatever he said. "Come, Catherine," I said, "we must side out too. I've done my ironing. Are you ready to go?" "It is not 8 o'clock," she answered, rising unwillingly. "Hareton, I'll leave this book on the chimney-piece, and I'll bring some more tomorrow." "Only books ye leave, all your talks on haste," said Joseph, "and it'll be match if you find 'em again, so you maun please yourself." And whatever he said. Cathy threatened that his library should pay for hers, and smiling as she passed Hareton, went singing upstairs, lighter of heart, I venture to say, than she had ever been under that roof before, except perhaps during her earliest visit to Linton. Like, that is sweet. I love that. Yeah, his smoking buddy's been stolen. Joseph is the worst. Joseph's the real villain of this novel. The intimacy thus commenced grew rapidly, though it was encountered temporary interruptions. Earnshaw was not to be civilized with a wish, and my young lady was no philosopher, and no paragon of patience, but both their minds tending to the same point, one loving and desiring to esteem, and the other loving and desiring to be esteemed, they contrived in the end to reach it. Like, this is great. I feel like Emily Bronte is writing in narrative what I'm trying to get at. Both in their minds tending to some point, to the same point. One loving and desiring to esteem, and the other loving and desiring to be esteemed. They contrived in the end to reach it. It's a great line. And it's cute too, because it's still like they have flaws here, but they're working toward becoming healthier. Oh, that took long enough. You see, Mr. Lockwood, it was enough. It was easy enough to win Mrs. Heathcliff's heart. But now I'm glad you did not try. The crown of all my wishes will be the union of these two. I shall envy no one on their wedding day. There won't be a happier woman than myself in England. Cute. She's like, I'm super happy you didn't make your move, Lockwood, because, that wouldn't have worked. All right, 2 chapters left, guys. Yeah, it is crazy that most adaptations leave the second generation out. That's literally the whole purpose of this book. That's the only happy part of this book. This is like Edgar Allan Poe when he's like, I write dark stories because the darker they are, the lighter the light pokes in. This is that. The sad thing is, this isn't, if this were written in like a Jane Austen novel, this would be like, this isn't really that great of a love story. This is kind of bleak. They're like just teaching each other, they're like okay with each other. And they're like maybe growing in that. But in this book, this is the greatest love story of all time. It goes from these terrible people and the worst situation and setting of all time. And we're just getting a little bit, like one day of like, oh, I forgive you. And they're like, oh, thank you. There's so much pain. I guess you have to experience, a lot of pain in order to get like a good feeling, a good sense here. But this was too much pain. Totally agree with you. All right, this is chapter 9. What is this? Chapter 19? Chapter 19. On the morrow of that Monday, Earnshaw, being still unable to follow his ordinary employments, and therefore remaining about the house, I speedily found it would be impractical to retain my charge beside me, as heretofore. She got downstairs before me and out of the garden, where she had seen her cousin performing some easy work. And when I went to bid them come to breakfast, I saw she had persuaded him to clear a large space of ground from the currant and gooseberry bushes, and they were busy planning together an importation of plants from the Grange. I was terrified at the devastation which had been accomplished in a brief half hour. The black currant trees were the apple of Joseph's eyes, and he had fixed her choice of a flower bed in the midst of them. There, that will all be shown to the master, I exclaimed, the minute it is discovered. And what excuse have you to offer for taking such liberties with the garden? We shall have a fine explosion on the head of it. See if we don't. Mr. Hareton, I wonder you should have no more wit than to go and make that mess at her bidding. I'd forgotten they were Joseph's, answered Earnshaw, rather puzzled, but I'll tell him I did it. We always ate our meals with Mr. Heathcliff. I held the mistress's post in making tea and carving, and was so indispensable at a table. Catherine usually sat by me, but today she stole near to Hareton, and I presently saw she would have no more discretion in her friendship than she had in her hostility. Love that. Great line. Now, mind you, you don't talk with and notice your cousin too much. Were my whispered instructions as we entered the room. It will certainly annoy Mr. Heathcliff and will be mad at you both. I'm not going to, she answered. The minute after, she had sidled to him and was sticking primroses on his plate of porridge. We got to make some porridge. That's what we'll do. We'll make some porridge. Porridge is such a love meal now. Black currants would be Joseph's favorite. Ay, ay, ay. He dared not speak to her there. He dared hardly look. And yet she went on teasing, till he was twice on the point of being provoked to laugh, and I frowned, and then she glanced toward the master, whose mind was occupied in other subjects in his company, and his countenance evinced, and she grew serious for an instant, scrutinizing him with deep gravity. Afterwards she turned and recommenced her nonsense. At last Hareton uttered a smothering laugh. Mr. Heathcliff started, his eyes rapidly surveying our faces. Catherine met it with her accustomed look of nervousness, and yet defiance, which he abhorred. Let's go. It is well you are out of my reach, he exclaimed. What fiend possesses you to stare back at me continually with those infernal eyes? Down with them, and don't remind me of your existence again. I thought I had cured you of laughing. It was me, muttered Hareton. What do you say? Demanded the master. Hareton looked at his plate and did not repeat the confession. Mr. Heathcliff looked at him a bit, and then silently resumed his breakfast and his interrupted musing. We had nearly finished, and the two young people prudently shifted wider asunder, so I anticipated no further disturbance during that sitting, when Joseph appeared at the door, revealing by his quivering lip and his furious eye that the outrage committed on the precious shrubs was detected. He must have seen Kathy and her cousin about the spot before he examined it, and while his jaws worked like those of a cow chewing its cud and rendered his speech difficult to understand, he began. I'm not reading that. I think this is a translation that we have. I must have my wages and go. I had aimed to die where I'd served for 60 years, and I thought I'd carry my books up into the garret and my bits of stuff, and they should have the kitchen to themselves for the sake of quietness. It was hard for me to get at my own hearthstone. But I thought I could do that. But no, she's taken my garden from me, and by the heart, master, I cannot stand it. You may accept the yoke, oppressive power, if you will. I'm not used to it. And an old man doesn't soon get used to new burdens. I'd rather earn my food and drink as a laborer on the road. Come on, Joseph, get out of there. Go free. Now, idiot, interrupted Heathcliff. Cut it short. What's your grievance? I'll interfere no quarrels between you and Nellie. She may thrust you into the coal hole for anything I care. It's no Nellie. That's not Nellie, answered Joseph. I wouldn't move for Nellie, nasty good-for-nothing as she is. Thank God, she cannot steal the soul from nobody. She was never so handsome, but that anybody would look at her without winking, not staring at her beauty. It's not that frightening, graceless girl that's bewitched our lad with bold eyes, and her forward ways till no. If it nearly bursts my heart, he's forgotten all I've done for him and taught him, and he's gone up and pulled the whole row of the grandest currant trees in the garden. And here he lamented outright, unmanned by a sense of his bitter injuries and Earnshaw's ingratitude and dangerous condition. Joseph? Oh my gosh. What a loser. Is the fool drunk, asked Mr. Heathcliff? That's the only good thing he's ever said. Hareton, is it you he's finding fault with? I pulled up 2 or 3 bushes, replied the young man, but I'm going to set him again. And why have you pulled him up, said the master. Catherine wisely put in her tongue. We wanted to plant some flowers there, she cried. I'm the only person to blame, for I wish to have him do it. And who the devil gave you leave to touch a stick about the place, demanded her father-in-law, much surprised. And who ordered you to obey her? He added, turning to Hareton. The latter was speechless. His cousin replied, You shouldn't grudge a few yards of earth for me to ornament when you have taken all my land. Dang. Are we going to get a fight? Your land, insolent slut. You never had any, said Heathcliff. And my money, she continued, returning his angry glare. And meantime, biting a piece of crust, the remnant of her breakfast. Whew! Silence, he exclaimed. Get done and be gone. Oh. I like this. This is okay. So there's an element in this of so I was going to be disappointed if Heathcliff just dies and everything gets better after this, but everything is getting better while he is still alive, which I think is an important point in this, because they know what is the truth, and the truth is the guiding force in their life right now. This is very akin to Sirius Black being in Azkaban prison and not losing the truth of his hope. And that's the thing that solves this thing. They know the truth. They're not going to be manipulated anymore. And they make a stand about it. This is how you deal with people like this. You let them be their miserable selves, but you will hold on to the truth with all that you have. And know that what they say and what they do, they can hurt you, they can harm you, but they're not going to gain that advantage over your mind of perverting what the truth actually is, which is all that anybody's been doing in this novel, and really all that Heathcliff's been doing in this novel. He's been perverting the truth in people's minds so they believe wrong things, And they just resign themselves to the fact of, okay, getting revenge. I'm liking this. They're not wallowing in misery. Yes. Heathcliff can't get satisfaction from this. This is great. Because a person like Heathcliff wants other people to be miserable, and that's how they get satisfaction. He's like an energy vampire. Like Heathcliff would be the greatest internet troll of all time. I could just see him in his parents' basement, just typing away, just really making people furious. I'm liking this. I'm really liking how this ends. That was shocking that came out of my mouth. The word like in this book. But I'm liking how this ends, actually. Interesting. Let's finish this chapter. The master seemed confounded a moment. He grew pale. Oh, wait. No, silence, he exclaimed. Get done and be gone. And Hareton's land and his money, pursued the reckless thing. Hareton and I are friends now, and I shall tell him all about you. The master seemed confounded a moment. He grew pale and rose up, eyeing her all the while with an expression of mortal hate. If you strike me, Hareton will strike you, she said. So you may as well sit down. Dang. If Hareton does not turn you out of the room, I'll strike him to hell, thundered Heathcliff. Damnable witch, dare you pretend to rouse him against me? Off with her. Do you hear? Fling her into the kitchen. I'll kill her, Elendine, if you let her come into my sight again. Hareton tried under his breath to persuade her to go. Drag her away, he cried savagely. Are you staying to talk? And he approached to execute his own command. He'll not obey you, wicked man, any more, said Catherine, and he'll soon detest you as much as I do. Wisht, muttered the young man reproachfully. I will not hear you speak so to him. Have done. But you won't let him strike me? She cried. Come then, he whispered earnestly. It was too late. Heathcliff caught hold of her. Now you go, he said to Earnshaw, accursed witch. This time she has provoked me. When I could not bear it, I'll make her repent it forever. He had his hand in her hair. Hareton attempted to release the locks, entreating him not to hurt her that once. His black eyes flashed. He seemed ready to tear Catherine in pieces. And I was just worked up to risk coming to the rescue when all of a sudden his fingers relaxed. He shifted his grasp from her head to her arm and gazed intently in her face. Then he drew his hand over his eyes, stood for a moment to collect himself apparently, and turning anew to Catherine, said with assumed calmness, You must learn to avoid putting me in passion, or I shall really murder you sometime. Go with Mrs. Dean and keep her confidence, and confine your insolence to her ears. As to Hareton Earnshaw, if I see him listen to you again, I'll send him seeking his bread where he can get it. Your love will make him an outcast and a beggar, Nellie. Take her, and leave me. All of you, leave me. Like we just turned the tide, and then is that his come to Jesus moment? I don't know. He's just like, whatever. I led my young lady out. She was too glad of her escape to resist. The other followed, and Mr. Heathcliff had the room to himself till dinner. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about this. I guess Heathcliff has maybe resigned to the fact that he's lost, but Hareton doesn't really stand up for her. Okay, let me keep reading. Yeah, I'm just puzzled. I'm just puzzled at what's happening here. I gotta keep reading because I gotta figure out. Yeah, I think I'm with you there. His programming, he's like going back. He has like PTSD. He's going back into some of his old habits, which I don't blame him for, but I guess he does, and he does do something a little bit better. Yeah, that's a great point. Harrington loves Heathcliff in some weird way. Even if you're getting abused, you still kind of love your parent like that. Yeah, that's a great point. Let me keep reading. I counseled Catherine to get hers upstairs, but as soon as he perceived her vacant seat, he sent me to call her. He spoke to none of us, ate very little, and went out directly afterward, intimating that he should not return before evening. The two new friends established themselves in the house during his absence, where I heard Harrington sternly check his cousin on her offering a revelation of her father-in-law's conduct to his father. He said he wouldn't suffer a word to be uttered to him in his disparagement. If he were the devil, it didn't signify. He would stand by him, and he'd rather she would abuse him as she used to than begin on Mr. Heathcliff. Catherine was waxing cross at this, but he found means to make her hold her tongue by asking how she would like him to speak ill of her father. And then she comprehended that Earnshaw took the master's reputation home to himself and was attached by ties stronger than reason could break, chains forged by habit, which it would be cruel to attempt to loosen. Okay, that's a good point. She showed a good heart thenceforth in avoiding both complaints and expressions of antipathy concerning Heathcliff, and confessed to me her sorrow that she had endeavored to raise a bad spirit between him and Harrington. Indeed, I don't believe she has ever breathed a syllable in the latter's hearing against her oppressor since. So I guess Catherine was maybe going a little bit too far, trying to get Harrington to really hate Heathcliff. But it wasn't going to work. But like, this is less good right now than I like, because now it's just like, live with your abuser. Learn how to deal with it and live with your abuser. I think it was a smart move. I think it was a wise move. Yeah, baby steps for sure. But it's not, yeah. It's interesting. It's just interesting. Let me keep reading. When this slight disagreement was over, they were thick again, and as busy as possible in their several occupations of pupil and teacher. I came in to sit with them after I had done my work, and I felt so soothed and comforted to watch them that I did not notice how time got on. You know, they both appeared in a measure, my children. I had long been proud of one, and now I was sure the other would be a source of equal satisfaction. His honest, warm, and intelligent nature shook off rapidly the clouds of ignorance and degradation, in which it had been bred, and Catherine's sincere commendations acted as a spur to his industry. His brightening mind brightened his features and added spirit and nobility to their aspect. I could hardly fancy it, the same individual I had beheld on the day I discovered my little lady at Wuthering Heights, after her expedition to the crags. While I admired and they labored, dusk drew on, and with it returned the master. He came upon us quite unexpectedly, entering by the front way, and had a full view of the whole three ere we could raise our heads to glance at him. When I reflected, there was never a pleasanter or more harmless sight, and it will be a burning shame to scold them. The red firelight glowed on the two bonny heads and revealed their faces, animated with the eager interest of children, for though he was 23 and she 18, each had so much of novelty to feel and learn that neither experienced nor evinced the sentiments of sober, disenchanted maturity. They lifted their eyes together to encounter Mr. Heathcliff, perhaps. Or perhaps you have never remarked that their eyes are precisely similar, and they are those of Catherine Earnshaw. The present Catherine has no other likeness to her except a breadth of forehead and a certain arch of the nostrils that will make her appear rather haughty, whether she will or not. With Hareton, the resemblance is carried farther. It is singular at all times, and it was particularly striking because his senses were alerted and his mental faculties wakened to unwonted activity. I suppose this resemblance disarmed Mr. Heathcliff. He walked to the hearth in evident agitation, but it quickly subsided as he looked at the young man, or as I should say, altered its character, for it was yet there. He took the book from his hand and glanced at the open page, and returned it without any observations, merely signing Catherine away. Her companion lingered very little behind her, and I was about to depart also, but he bid me sit still. It is a poor conclusion, is it not, he observed, having brooded a while on the scene he had just witnessed. An absurd termination to my violent exertions. I get levers and matlocks to demolish the two houses, and train myself to be capable of working like Hercules when everything is ready and in my power. I find the will to lift a slate off either roof has vanished. My old enemies have not beaten me. Now would be the precious time to revenge myself on their representatives. I could do it, and none could hinder me, but where is the use? I don't care for striking. I can't take the trouble to raise my hand. That sounds as if I've been laboring the whole time only to exhibit a fine trait of magnanimity. It is far from being the case. I have lost the facility of enjoying their destruction, and I am too idle to destroy for nothing else. This is so fascinating now. He's just like lost the will for revenge. Like he's got it, and he's like, I'm like bored. I don't know. Now there is a strange change approaching. I'm in its shadow at present. I take so little interest in my daily life that I hardly remember to eat and drink. Those two who have left the room are the only objects which retain a distinct material appearance to me, and that appearance causes me pain, amounting to agony. About her I won't speak, and don't desire to think, but I earnestly wish she were invisible. Her presence invokes an only maddening sensation. He moves me differently, and if I could do it without seeming insane, I'd never see him again. You'll perhaps think me rather inclined to become so, he added, making an effort to smile. If I try to describe the thousand forms of past associations and ideas he awakens or embodies, but you'll not talk to me of what I tell you. And my mind is so eternally secluded in itself, it is tempting at last to turn it out to another. 5 minutes ago, Hareton seemed a personification of my youth, not a human being. I felt him in such a variety of ways that it would have been impossible to have accosted him rationally. In the first place, his startling likeness to Catherine connected him fearfully with her. That, however, which may you suppose the most potent to arrest my imagination, is actually the least. For what is not connected with her to me, and what does not recall her? I cannot look down to the floor, but her features are shaped on flags, and every cloud and every tree, filling the air at night and caught by glimpses in every object. By day I am surrounded with her image. The most ordinary faces of men and women, my own features, mock me with a resemblance. The entire world is a dreadful collection of memoranda that she did exist, and that I have lost her. Well, Hareton's aspect was the ghost of my immortal love, on my wild endeavors to hold my right, my degradation, my pride, my happiness, and my anguish. But it is frenzy to repeat these thoughts to you. Only it will let you know why, with a reluctance to be always alone, his society is no benefit, rather an aggravation of the constant torment I suffer. And it partly contributes to render me regardless how he and his cousin go on together. I can give them no attention anymore. But what do you mean by a change, Mr. Heathcliff? I said, alarmed at his manner. That he was neither in danger of losing his senses nor dying, according to my judgment. He was quite strong and healthy. And as to his reason, from childhood he had delight in dwelling on dark things and entertaining odd fancies. He might have had monomania. What's monomania? There's a footnote. A form of insanity. If the patient is irrationally on one subject only. An exaggerated enthusiasm for or devotion to one subject. I'd say that's about right. Hi, Wes. I'd say that's right. On every other point, his wits were as sound as mine. I shall not know that till it comes, he said. I'm only half conscious of it now. You have no feelings of illness, have you? I asked. No, Nellie, I have not, he answered. Then you are not afraid of death? I pursued. Afraid? No, he replied. I have neither fear nor nor presentiment, nor a hope of death. Why should I? With my hard constitution and temperate mode of living, and unperilous occupations, I ought to, and probably shall, remain above ground, till there is scarcely a black hair on my head. And yet I cannot continue in this condition. I have to remind myself to breathe, almost to remind my heart to beat. And it is like bending back a stiff spring. It is by compulsion that I do the slightest act, not prompted by one thought, and by compulsion that I notice anything alive or dead which is not associated with one universal idea. I have a single wish, and my whole being and facilities are yearning to attain it. They have yearned toward it so long and so unwaveringly that I'm convinced it will be reached, and soon, because it has devoured my existence. I am swallowed in the anticipation of its fulfillment. My confessions have not relieved me, but they may account for some otherwise unaccountable phases of humor which I show. Oh God, it is a long fight. I wish it were over. He began to pace the room, muttering terrible things to himself, till I was inclined to believe, as he said Joseph did, that conscience had turned his heart into an earthly hell. I wondered greatly how it would end. Though he seldom before had revealed his state of mind, even by looks, it was his habitual mood, I had no doubt. He asserted himself, but not a soul from his general bearing would have conjectured the fact. You did not, when you saw him, Mr. Lockwood, at any period in which I speak, he was just as the same then, only fonder of continued solitude, and perhaps still more laconic in company. This is like, what? So help me understand this. I have a single wish, and my whole being and faculties are yearning to attain it. They have yearned toward it so long and so unwaveringly that I'm convinced it will be reached, and soon, because it has devoured my existence. I am swallowed in the anticipation of its fulfillment. He just wants to be with Kathy? So, is he essentially resigning, in fact, to the fact that he's going to die? Like, does he die because he loses the will to live? Will he die because he loses the will to live? I am Catherine. But it's an interesting point because he does what he wanted to do, which is enact revenge, but that's not what he really wanted to do. He wanted Kathy. So he has that insanity, but he doesn't at the same time. He called Kathy his murderer. No, he called himself his murderer. Right? No, did he call Kathy his murderer? Who did he call his murderer? He wants to die and just said that gloomily that he will probably have to get old and gray first. And meanwhile, Nellie's like, you don't have to get old and gray. I could help you out in that if you want. He called Kathy his murder. Okay, I love my murder. That's right. This is a weird ending now. Like, I think this is a really realistic ending. I don't know if I wanted a realistic ending to this book. I wanted something that would satisfy me a bit more. Like, I'm satisfied in some ways and not in others, which I guess is just the reality of this, something like this, where someone is so terrible. Maybe I was looking for revenge the whole time, and you don't really get revenge with him. Like, we have to learn to let this go as the reader. Maybe. I think when that little thing with Harriton happened, I think I was hoping that Harriton was going to get in a fight, and there was going to be like a big breakout, and like he was going to be like, you don't touch the person that I love, and he, like, you know, defeats Heathcliff in this grand fight on the hearth. But I think the point is that doesn't happen, and now Heathcliff's like, I don't care to live anymore. Like, or he's like, not even that. He's like, I'm sick of. I'm like, revenge is over. I'm like sick of it. I just want to die, but it's gonna take me a long time to die. And now in my heart, I'm going, that sucks. I didn't get revenge. But I think the purpose of that is that we're not supposed to feel like we get revenge, because that's insidious for us. For everything that has happened here, I've just wanted him to die in some grand way. I wanted like Kathy like slowly poison him, for Harriton to like slowly asphyxiate him, for Nellie to like you know, push him into a moor or slowly bury him. He got his revenge and he's hollow. Exactly. That's a great way to put it. But I think I would say like the purpose of this is that when we read, I don't think we're supposed to really feel revenge. Yeah, Nemo, I'll read that live right after, because I saw it was just a bunch of blacked out text. Well, ironically, I didn't want to Count of Monte Cristo. I want to Count of Monte Cristo movie, because the Count of Monte Cristo, I remember the end of that book. We can't talk about that now. But I remember it was just about justice, and I was like, okay. This doesn't really feel like justice. This like feels like it's Emily Bronte shaking me and being like, don't be like Heathcliff. Don't want revenge. It's going to kill you and leave you hollow. Maybe. I'm kind of the same too. I wanted like a coming of age scene. Harriton kills Heathcliff by protecting Kathy. That would have been like romantic. I've been like, oh yeah, great. Look, he's like, you know, he's on the other side, but no. Yeah, it's definitely not that kind of book. All right, let's finish the last chapter, then we can chat about this more. We got 10 more pages. It's an interesting ending. Yeah, he's a shell of a person now. But I don't know. All right, chapter 20, which is chapter 34, I think. For some days that evening, Mr. Heathcliff shunned meeting us at meals, yet he would not consent formally to exclude Harriton and Kathy. He had an aversion to yielding so completely his feelings, choosing rather to absent himself, or to absent himself. And eating once in 24 hours seemed sufficient sustenance for him. To be honest, I'm kind of like that too. I eat like once a day and I'm like good. I snack sometimes throughout the day, but I get that. One night, after the family were in bed, I heard him go downstairs and out the front door. I did not hear him re-enter, and in the morning, I found he was still away. We were in April then. Oh, maybe he dies on my birthday. Then the weather was sweet and warm, the grass as green as showers, and the sun could make it, and the 2 dwarf apple trees near the southern wall in full bloom. After breakfast, Catherine insisted on my bringing a chair and sitting with my work under the fir trees at the end of the house, and she beguiled Hareton, who had perfectly recovered from his accident, to dig and arrange her little garden, which was shifted to that corner by the influence of Joseph's complaints. It was comfortably reveling in the spring fragrance around, or I was comfortably reveling in the spring fragrance around, and was the beautiful soft blue overhead when my young lady, who had run down near the gate to procure some primrose roots for a border, returned only half laden, and informed us that Mr. Heathcliff was coming. And he spoke to me, she added, with a perplexed countenance. What did he say? Asked Hareton. He told me to be gone as fast as I could, she answered, but he looked so different from his usual look that I stopped a moment to stare at him. How? I inquired. Why, almost bright and cheerful. No, almost nothing. Very much excited, and wild and glad. He's about to die, and he's happy about that. He's going to get what he wants. Ugh. Night walking amuses him then, I remarked, affecting a careless manner. In reality, as surprised as she was, and anxious to ascertain the truth of her statement, for as to see the master looking glad would not be an everyday spectacle, I framed an excuse to go in. Do you think that he goes to dig up the grave of Catherine in these little night excursions? Probably. Heathcliff stood at the open door. He was pale and he trembled, yet certainly he had a strange, joyful glitter in his eyes that altered the aspect of his whole face. He did dig up her grave previously. Can you get some disease from touching dead bodies? You have to be able to, right? I would love if he dies because he's been hugging dead Catherine so much. That would be a very poetic way to go. That's my headcanon. I don't know if this book is going to actually go into that. I don't know if that's really going to be the thing, but that is what I think. Yeah, 18 years later, probably not, but that's my headcanon still. There's some disease in there that she had that has just still been breeding in there. The permafrost has locked it in. Will you have some breakfast? I said. You must be hungry, rambling about all night. I wanted to discover where he had been, but I did not like to ask directly. No, I'm not hungry, he answered, averting his head, and speaking rather contemptuously, as if he guessed I was trying to divine the occasion of his good humor. I felt perplexed. I did not know whether it were a proper opportunity to offer a bit of admonition. I don't think it's right to wander out of doors, I observed, instead of being in bed. It is not wise at any rate this moist season. I dare you'll say you'll catch a bad cold or a fever. You have something the matter with you now. Nothing but what I can bear, he replied. And with the greatest pleasure, provide you'll leave me alone. Get in and don't annoy me. I obeyed, and in passing I noticed he breathed as fast as a cat. Yes, I reflected to myself, we shall have a fit of illness. I cannot conceive what he has been doing. That noon he sat down to dinner with us, and received a heaped up plate from my hands as if he intended to make amends for previous fasting. I've neither cold nor fever, Nellie, he remarked, in allusion to my morning speech, and I'm ready to do justice to the food you give me. He took his fork and knife and was going to commence eating. When the inclination appeared to become suddenly extinct, he laid them on the table, looked eagerly toward the window, and rose and went out, too. We saw him walking to and fro in the garden. while we concluded our meal. And Earnshaw said he'd go. He's having hallucinations. He's probably seeing Catherine. And asked why he would not dine, and thought we had grieved him in some way. Well, is he coming? Cried Catherine, when her cousin returned. Nay, he answered, but he's not angry. He seemed rare and pleased indeed. Only I made him impatient by speaking to him twice, and then he bid me be off to you, and wondered how I could want the company of anybody else. I set his plate to keep warm on the fender, and after an hour or two he re-entered when the room was clear, in no degree calmer. The same unnatural appearance of his joy under his black brows, the same bloodless hue, and his teeth visible now and then in a kind of smile. His frame shivering, not as one shivers with chill or weakness, but as a tight stretched cord vibrates, a strong thrilling rather than trembling. I will ask what's the matter, I thought. Or who should? And I exclaimed, have you heard any good news, Mr. Heathcliff? You look uncommonly animated. Where should good news come from to me, he said. I'm animated with hunger, and seemingly I must not eat. Your dinner is here, I returned. Why won't you get in? Or why won't you get it? I want it now, he muttered hastily. I'll wait till supper. And Nellie, once for all, let me beg you to warn Hareton and the other away from me. I wish to be troubled by nobody. I wish to have this place to myself. Is there some new reason for this banishment? I inquired. Tell me why you are so queer, Mr. Heathcliff. Where were you last night? And I'm not putting the question through idle curiosity, but you are putting the question through very idle curiosity, he interrupted with a laugh. Yet I'll answer it. Last night I was on the threshold of hell. Today I am within sight of my heaven. I have my eyes on it. Hardly 3 feet to sever me. Hardly 3 feet to sever me? He dug 3 feet into the grave, into 6 feet of a grave? Is that what I'm reading? Weird. And now you'd better go. You'll neither see nor hear anything to frighten you, if you refrain from prying. Having swept the hearth and wiped the table, I departed more perplexed than ever. He did not quit the house again till that afternoon, and no one intruded on his solitude till at 8 o'clock I deemed it proper, though unsummoned, to carry a candle and supper him. Yeah, maybe not take all night to dig 3 feet. Although digging a hole is a lot of work, to be completely honest. When was the last time you guys dug a hole? That's the size of a graveyard. 3 feet. That's a lot of digging. He was leaning against the edge of an open lattice, but not looking out. His face was turned to the interior gloom. The fire had smoldered to ashes. The room was filled with the damp, mild air of the cloudy evening. And so still, that not only the murmur of a beck down Gimmerton was distinguishable, but its ripples and its gurglings over the pebbles, or through the large stones which it could not cover. I uttered an ejaculation of discontent at seeing the dismal grate, and commenced shutting the casements, one after another, till I came to his. Must I close this, I asked, in order to rouse him? For he would not stir. The light flashed on his features as I spoke. Oh, Mr. Lockwood, I cannot express what a terrible start I got by the momentary view. Those deep black eyes, that smile, and ghastly paleness. It appeared to me not Mr. Heathcliff, but a goblin, and in my terror I let the candle bend toward the wall, and it left me in darkness. Yes, close it, he replied in his familiar voice. There, that is pure awkwardness. Why did you hold the candle horizontally? Be quick and bring another. I hurried out in a foolish state of dread, and said to Joseph, the master wishes you to take him a light, and rekindle the fire. For I dare not go on myself again just then. Joseph rattled some fire into the shovel, and went. But he brought it back immediately with the supper tray in his other hand, explaining that Mr. Heathcliff was going to bed, and he wanted nothing to eat till morning. We heard him mount the stairs directly. He did not proceed to his ordinary chamber, but turned into into that with a paneled bed, its windows, as I mentioned before. It is wide enough for anybody to get through, and it struck me that he plotted another midnight excursion, which we had no suspicion of. Weird stuff going on here. Is he a ghoul or a vampire? I mused. I had read of such hideous incarnate demons, and then I set myself to reflect how I had tended him in infancy, and watched him grow to youth, and followed him almost through this whole course, and what absurd nonsense it was to yield to that sense of horror. Which is a great question. Is he a ghoul or a vampire? Honestly, fantastic question. But where did he come from, the little dark thing, harbored by good men to his bane, muttered superstition, as I dozed into unconsciousness, and I began, half dreaming, to weary myself with imaging some fit parentage for him. And repeating my waking meditations, I tracked his existence over again with grim variations. At last, picturing his death and funeral, of which all I can remember is being exceedingly vexed at having the task of dictating an inscription for his monument, and consulting the sexton about it, and he had no surname and could not tell his age, we were obliged to count ourselves with a single word, Heathcliff. That came true. We were. If you enter the kirkyard, you'll read on the headstone only that and the date of his death. Dawn restored me to common sense. I rose and went into the garden, as soon as I could see, to ascertain if there were any footmarks under his window. There were none. He has stayed home tonight, I thought, and he'll be all right today. I prepared breakfast for the household, as was my usual custom, but Hareton and Catherine to get theirs ere the master came down, for he lay late. They preferred taking it out of doors, under the trees, and I set them a little table to accommodate them. On my re-entrance, I found Mr. Heathcliff below, and he and Joseph were conversing about some farming business. He gave clear, minute directions concerning the matter discussed, but he spoke rapidly and turned his head continually aside, and he had the same excited expressions, even more exaggerated. When Joseph quitted the room, he took his seat in the place he generally chose, and I put a basin of coffee before him. He drew it nearer, and then he rested his arms on the table and looked at the opposite wall, as I suppose, surveying one particular portion up and down with glittering, restless eyes, and with such eager interest that he stopped breathing during half a minute together. Come now, I exclaimed, pushing some bread against his hand. Eat and drink while it is hot. It has been waiting near an hour. He didn't notice me, and yet he smiled. I'd rather have seen him gnash his teeth than his smile. Mr. Heathcliff, master, I cried. Don't, for God's sake, stare as if you saw another unearthly vision. Don't, for God's sake, shout so loud, he replied. Turn round and tell me, are we by ourselves? Of course, was my answer. He's legitimately having hallucinations. Yeah, I like that she stops to talk herself out of the idea. Oh, he can't be a vampire or a ghoul. Interesting stuff. Of course was my answer, and of course we are. Still, I involuntarily obeyed him as if I were not quite sure. With a sweep of his hand, he cleared a vacant space in front among the breakfast things, and leaned forward to gaze more at his ease. Now I perceived he was not looking at the wall, for when I regarded him alone, it seemed exactly that his gaze at something within 2 yards distance, and whatever it was, communicated apparently both pleasure and pain, and exquisite extremes at least. The anguished yet raptured expressions of his countenance suggested that idea. The fancied object was not fixed either. His eyes pursued it with unwearied vigilance, and even in speaking to me, we were never weaned away. I vainly reminded him of his protracted abstinence from food, if he stirred to touch anything in compliance with my entreaties, as if he stretched his hand out to get a piece of bread. His fingers clenched before they reached it, and remained on the table, forgetful of their aim. I sat a model of patience, trying to attract his absorbed attention from its engrossing speculation, till he grew irritable, and got up, asking why I would not allow him to have his own time in taking his meals. And saying that on the next occasion I needn't wait, I might set the things down and go. Having uttered these words, he left the house, slowly sauntered down the garden path, and disappeared through the gate. The hours crept anxiously by. Another evening came. I did not retire to rest till late, and when I did, I could not sleep. He returned after midnight, and instead of going to bed, shut himself in the room beneath. I listened and tossed about, and finally dressed and descended. It was too irksome to lie up there, harassing my brain with half-idle misgivings. I distinguished Mr. Heathcliff's step, restlessly measuring the floor, and he frequently broke the silence by deep inspiration resembling a groan. He muttered detached words also. The only one I could catch was the name of Catherine, coupled with some wild term of endearment or suffering, and spoke as one would speak to a person present, low and earnest, wrung from the depths of his soul. I had not courage to walk straight into the apartment, but I desired to divert him from his reverie, and therefore fell foul of the kitchen fire, stirred it, and began to scrape the cinders. It drew him forth sooner than I expected. He opened the door immediately and said, "Nellie, come here. Is it morning? Come in with your light." "It is striking 4, I answered. "Do you want a candle to take upstairs? You might have a lit one at this fire." "No, I don't wish to go upstairs," he said. "Come in and kindle me a fire, and do anything there is to do about the room." "I must blow the coals red first before I can carry any," I replied, getting a chair and the bellows. He roamed to and fro meantime, in a state of approaching distraction, his heavy sighs succeeding each other, so thick as to leave no space for common breathing between. "When day breaks, I'll send for Green," he said. "I wish to make some legal inquiries of him, while I can bestow a thought on those matters, and while I can act calmly. I have not written my will yet, and how to leave my property I cannot determine. I wish I would annihilate it from the face of the earth." "I would not talk so, Mr. Heathcliff," I interposed. "Let your will be a while. You'll be spared to repent of your many injustices yet, and never expected that your nerves would be disordered. They are, at present, marvelously so. However, and almost entirely through your own fault. The way you've passed these last 3 nights might knock up a Titan. Do you take some food and some repose? You need only to look at yourself in a glass to see how you require both. Your cheeks are hollow, and your eyes bloodshot, like a person starving with hunger and going blind with loss of sleep." "It is not my fault that I cannot eat or rest," he replied. "I assure you, it is through no settled designs. I'll do both as soon as I possibly can." "But you might as well bid a man struggling in the water rest within arm's length of the shore. I must reach it first, and then I'll rest. Well, never mind, Mr. Green. As to repenting of my injustices, I've done no injustice." "And I repent of nothing. I'm too happy. And yet I'm not happy enough. My soul's bliss kills my body, but does not satisfy itself." "Happy, master," I cried. "Strange happiness. If you would hear me without being angry, I might offer some advice that would make you happier." "What is it?" he asked. "Give it." "You are aware, Mr. Heathcliff," I said, "that from the time you were 13 years old, you have lived a selfish, unchristian life, and probably hardly had a Bible in your hands during all that period. You must have forgotten the contents of the book, and you may not have space to search it now. Could it be hurtful to send for someone, some minister or any denomination, it does not matter which, to explain it, and show you how very far you have erred from its precepts, and how unfit you will be for heaven unless a change takes place in you before you die?" "I'm rather obliged and angry, Nellie," he said, "for you remind me of the matter in which I desire to be buried in. It is to be carried in the churchyard in evening. You and Hareton may, if you please, accompany me, and mind particularly to notice that the sexton obeys my directions concerning the 2 coffins. No minister need come, nor need anything be said over me. I tell you, I have nearly attained my heaven, and that of the other is altogether unvalued and uncoveted by me. And supposing you persevered in your obstinate fast, and died by that means, and they refused to bury you in the upstairs of the kirk," I said, shocked at the godless indifference, "how would you like it?" "They won't do that," he replied. "If they did, you must have me removed secretly, and if you neglect it, ye shall prove practically that the dead are not annihilated." As soon as he heard the other members of the family stirring, he retired to his den, and I breathed freer. But in the afternoon, while Joseph and Hareton were at their work, he came in the kitchen again, And with a wild look bid me come and sit in the house. He wanted somebody with him. I declined, telling him plainly that his strange talk and manner frightened me, and I had neither the nerve nor the will to be his companion alone. I believe you think me a fiend, he said with his dismal laugh, something too horrible to live under a decent roof. Then turning to Catherine, who was there, and who drew behind me at his approach, he added half sneeringly, "Will you come, Chuck? I'll not hurt you. No, to you I've made myself worse than the devil. Well, there is one who won't shrink from my company. By God, she's relentless. Oh, damn it. It's utterly too much for flesh and blood to bear, even mine." He solicited the society of no one more at dusk and went into his chamber. Through the whole night and far into the morning, we heard him groaning and murmuring to himself. Hareton was anxious to enter, but I bid him fetch Mr. Kenneth, and he should go in and see him. When he came, I requested admittance and tried to open the door. I found it locked, and Heathcliff bid us be damned. He was better, and we'd be left alone till the doctor went away. The following evening was very wet. Indeed, it poured down till day dawn. And as I took my morning walk round the house, I observed my master's window swinging open, and the rain driving straight in. He cannot be in bed, I thought. Those showers would drench him through. He must be up or out. But I'll make no more ado. I'll go boldly and look. Having succeeded in obtaining entrance with another key, I ran to unclose the panels, for the chamber was vacant. Quickly pushing them aside, I peeped in. Mr. Heathcliff was there, laid on his back. His eyes met mine so keen and so fierce, I started, and then he seemed to smile. I could not think him dead, but his face and throat were washed with rain. The bedclothes dripped, and he was perfectly still. The lattice, flapping to and fro, had grazed one hand that rested on the sill. No blood trickled from the broken skin, and when I put my fingers to it, I could not doubt no more he was dead and stark. I hasped the window, and combed his black hair from his forehead. I tried to close my eyes, to extinguish, if possible, that frightful, lifelike gaze of exultation, before anyone else beheld it. They would not shut it. They seemed to sneer at my attempts, and his parted lips and sharp white teeth sneered too. Taken with another fit of cowardice, I cried out for Joseph. Joseph shuffled up and made a noise, but resolutely refused to meddle with him. "The devil's harried off his soul," he cried, "and he ma have his carcass into to bargain for aught I care. Ech, what a wicked he looks grinning at death." And the old sinner grinned in mockery. I thought he intended to cut a caper round his bed. But suddenly composing himself, he fell on his knees and raised his hands, and returned thanks to the lawful master, and the ancient stock were restored to their rights. I felt stunned by the awful event, and my memory unavoidably recurred to former times with a sort of oppressive sadness. But poor Hareton, the most wronged. He was the only one that really suffered much. He sat by the corpse all night, weeping in bitter earnest. He pressed his hands and kissed the sarcastic, savage face that everyone else shrank from contemplating, and bemoaned him with that strong grief which springs naturally from a generous heart, though it be tough as tempered steel. Kenneth was perplexed to announce of what disorder the master died. I concealed the fact of having swallowed nothing for 4 days, fearing it might lead to trouble. And then I persuaded he did not abstain on purpose. It was the consequences of his strange illness, not the cause. What's up, Wes? We buried him to the scandal of the whole neighborhood, as he had wished. Earnshaw and I... Wes is excited because he's sensing the end of the book. Wes, no. I know you smell your friend, but... No crying. We buried him to the scandal of the whole neighborhood as he wished. Earnshaw and I, the sexton, and 6 men to carry the coffin, comprehended to hold attendance. The 6 men departed when they had let it down into a grave. We stayed to see it covered. Hareton, with a streaming face, dug green sods and laid them over the brown mold himself. At present, it is smooth and verdant as its companion mounds, and I hope its tenant sleeps as soundly. But the country folk, if you ask them, would swear on their Bibles that he walks. There are those who speak to having met him near the church, on the moor, and even within this house. Idle tales. Idle tales, they'll say, and so I say. Yet that old man by the kitchen fire affirms he has seen two on him, looking out of his chamber window every rainy night since his death. And an odd thing happened to me about a month ago. I was going to the Grange one evening, a dark evening, threatening thunder. And just at the turn of the heights, I encountered a little boy with a sheep and 2 lambs before him. He was crying terribly, and supposing the lambs were skittish and would not be guided. What is the matter, my little man? I asked. These Heathcliffs, and a woman yonder, under the nab, he blubbered. Darn it pass 'em. I saw nothing, but neither the sheep nor he would go on, so I bid him take the road lower down. He probably raised the phantoms from thinking, as he traversed the moors alone, on the nonsense he had heard his parents and companion repeat. Yet still, I don't like being out in the dark, and I don't like being left by myself in this grim house. I cannot help it. I shall be glad when they leave it and shift to the Grange. They are going to the Grange then, I said. Yes, answered Mrs. Dean, as soon as they are married, and that will be on New Year's Day. And who will live here then? Why, Joseph will take care of the house, and perhaps a lad to keep him company. They will live in the kitchen, and the rest will be shut up. For the use of such ghosts as they choose to inhabit it, I observed. No, Mr. Lockwood, said Nellie, shaking her head. I believe the dead are at peace, but it is not right to speak of them with levity. At that moment, the garden gate swung to. The ramblers were returning. They are afraid of nothing, I grumbled, watching their approach through the window. Together they would brave Satan and all his legions. As they stepped onto the door stones and halted to take their last looks at the moon, or more correctly at each other by her light, I felt irresistibly impelled to escape them again. And pressing a resemblance into the hand of Mrs. Dean, and disregarding her expostulations at my rudeness, I vanished through the kitchen as they entered the house door, and so should have confirmed Joseph in his opinion of his fellow servants' gay indiscretions, had he not, fortunately, recognized me for a respectable character, by the sweet ring of a sovereign at his feet. My walk home was lengthened by a diversion in the direction of the kirk, when beneath its walls I perceived decay had made progress even in 7 months. Many a window showed black gaps deprived of glass, and slates jutted off here and there beyond the right line of the roof, to be gradually worked on in coming autumn storms. So they are all dying of black mold. I saw it and soon discovered the 3 headstones on the slope next to the moor. The middle one gray and half buried in heath. Edgar Linton's only harmonized by the turf and moss creeping up its foot. Heathcliff's still bare. I lingered round them under the benign sky, watched the moths fluttering among the heath and harebells, listened to the soft wind breathing through the glass, and wondered how one could ever imagine unquiet slumbers for the sleepers in that quiet earth. Yeah, Wes is having a little drink, sorry. He couldn't deal with the end. What was that last chapter? Why did we have to go into such detail about that? I just wanted it to be done with. We're done. We finished. Congrats, guys. Everyone, go get a drink. Congrats. Oh my gosh. What the heck? Joseph does get it what he wants. No one's going to bother him at Wuthering Heights. He's going to eat his black currants and just be miserable there. Man, that was a weird last chapter. Honestly, Edgar Allan Poe is way more cheerful than this book. I don't think I'll ever read this book again. I don't want to touch this book again. I don't even know if I want to put it next to the other books that I have on my bookshelf. This one, I might just let someone borrow this book. Because Victorian writers were weird and the Brontes were even weirder. Guys, we finished. I feel so good that we're finished. We don't have to do this book. It was a good last 4 chapters. I actually I did like the last 4 chapters. Yeah, I'll donate it to a library book sale. There's a little mini library down the block from me. I'm just going to pop it in there. Honestly, I might do that. I don't know if I want this book. I might just put this book in that little library. Yeah. The point of the last chapter is to make sure it's dissatisfying. Yeah, you got that right. Ooh, we're having a momentous occasion where I can unbookmark this page. Exit out of that crap. Oy, oy, oy. Bookmarks and list. Delete bookmark. I don't know. The last chapter was just like, well, why was it necessary? I mean, like, it was just so long. Don't think it goes through real, but that's one of the most interesting discussions of the book, for sure. Because not only the kid was shocked by it, the animals were shocked by it. The animals can sense something. They're smelling his ghost. Yeah, but it was a long description to talk about how Heathcliff died. It was a long chapter about that. Like, I don't want that much detail about how he died. I wouldn't have minded that he just didn't eat until one day he sat on his bed and got cold with rainwater and died. I guess that's just like her romantic writing, wanting to write a lot about that. But it was a long chapter to me. I'm happy that you have a happy little couple in that. That's kind of cute. I like that it's Hareton too. Like, Hareton's the one who kind of like fixes all that. Ooh, yeah, Nemo. Let me read this. The snowy moors. Thank you. All right. I don't think I've ever detested another character as much as I did Heathcliff. And despite his upbringing and his come to Jesus moment near the end, his actions to me are unpardonable. Agreed. And yet here lies the biggest strength of the book, because its entire theme is about forgiveness. Yes! So I am being a hypocrite for not forgiving Heathcliff. Yes! I'd argue no, because my very unchristian, a theme I'll get to, and modern mind, forgiveness doesn't equate to passivity. Yeah, I mean, that's true. I think, yeah, even in religion. I can still do the latter and act no vengeance while not forgiving someone for their actions. Coming back to the theme of the book, I think some of us first-time readers were perplexed by the events of Chapter 3 with Lockwood's dreams, and looking back on it, the dreams foreshadow the entire plot. Let's examine. The first dream of Lockwood attending to the sermon with the 70 times 7 sins. I was not raised with Christian beliefs, so I did a bit of digging, and it's a quote from Matthew, where Peter asked Jesus, how many times must one forgive? Jesus says 70 times 7. A larger number, probably just meaning countless. Yeah, for sure. When the 491st sin is mentioned, Lockwood and then Jabez start accusing each other, and they completely disregard the intent of Jesus' teachings that one must always forgive. This leads to violence, and everyone present at the sermon behaves viciously, attacking each other. This is precisely what Heathcliff does. Instead of forgiving, he resorts to violence and unending violence at that, which makes him miserable. Meanwhile, Hareton embraces forgiveness for Kathy, and they live happily. Additionally, Lockwood mentions that it is a long sermon, and he gets uneasy at the mention of each and every sin he wants to leave. Somewhat like how, as we readers of this book, want to stop after everything that Heathcliff does, but we must forgive and trudge on because forgiveness is what leads to the happy ending. It's a great point. And then number 2, their second dream is that of Lockwood being visited by Catherine, which again foreshadows how Heathcliff's demise approaches him. Heathcliff says, and I paraphrase, that he has been waiting for Catherine to come visit him in spirit form for 18 years. And her not being there makes him restless and violent because he sees her in everything. He covets her beyond anything, and yet he cannot have her. This is why he desires revenge. Revenge is the only thing that drives him. Revenge on her and revenge on everything that everyone took from him. And yet, the moment he feels Catherine's ghost return to him is the moment he becomes content, more or less. Now, why was Lockwood visited by this dream? I can only conjecture, and I think it is because he felt something for Kathy and desired to find her in the pages he was reading. It was a different Catherine, and his obsession of them and their story mirrors that of Heathcliff's. Interesting. I mean, there's probably something there. I don't know if I would say it that strongly, but I think that you're onto something right there. Also, regarding Nellie being the real villain, I read an article that people had mentioned, and And at its best, it's badly written academic paper that stretches facts and interpretation, and at its worst, it's a poorly conceived conspiracy theory. For sure, don't think that Nellie is a real hero. I think that anybody that thinks Nellie is a real hero is crazy to me. Nellie, or not the real villain. I think she's kind of a hero in this story. But, I mean, it's written through her perspective, so maybe she's skewing the facts that she's a hero. It's an interesting question, though, the comparison with Lockwood and Heathcliff. There's a little bit of obsession there, but maybe his is like how you have a healthy obsession where you're able to walk away from something. Honestly, let's talk about that. His ability to actually walk away at the end. His obsession doesn't cause him to have revenge on anybody. He has interest in a person to some extent and has maybe obsession over this and wants to know the story and wants to know the tale, but he learns something at the end and then all of a sudden is able to just walk away. I love his walk away too. He does like a little, people said this was insulting, but does like a little Irish goodbye. Irish goodbye is not insulting to me. It's just what you do. It's what I do all the time. Yeah, I feel like she's a pretty sound person. Yeah, I do agree. She's maybe a little self-serving. But who wouldn't be in a situation like that? I feel like you have to be self-serving to survive. Lockwood was a weird character. I kind of just viewed him as an airhead a little bit in the beginning. I'm not going to reread this novel, but if I did, I'd be curious to look back and see what he was doing at the beginning. You only ever hear Irish goodbye from Americans, for sure. I don't think anybody from Ireland says that. I don't know why we say it. Are all the Irish in New York? Maybe they used to do that. The end made that book better than I thought it was going to be. I think it's like, again, I definitely think this is like she's pointing fingers at you rather than just telling a story. She wants you to feel something too. Like this book feels a bit more like religious art, like an icon. It feels like it's supposed to make you feel something and ask. I mean, all good art does this, but this is like almost to a different extent. Well, maybe this is one of the reasons why I don't like the novel so much, because it's almost too in your face. Like she seems to some extent. I mean, this is a better way to sometimes like try to drain something in someone's head is by telling a story, and everyone does that in storytelling to some extent. But she's not just purely telling a story, which I don't mind. Again, I don't mind that. Like, you know, people have motives behind why they tell stories, but hers does seem a little bit like, let me try to drive a point in your head about forgiveness, which is a good thing that honestly a good thing to do. I don't mind that too. Wait, that's funny too that this book was criticized for not having a moral message, because I feel like that's all that it does. And like I could criticize it for taking so long to get to that moral message, but the moral message at the end is like the power of forgiveness, that if you don't forgive someone, you're going to live like Heathcliff. And if you do, you could have a happy ending. And that's where the happy ending kind of comes from. I don't know if I'm going to go see the movie still. I can see that how the critics would think it's a little bit too violent and necessary, but I feel like people would see that there's a moral message behind this. Yeah, I don't know if I'm actually gonna go see the movie. I don't know if I want to. I've heard too many reviews about it, and I don't know if I'll like it that much. There's a lot of reviews on it that just say it's like very like sexually charged. And I don't really care about a movie like that. Yeah, it just bludgeons us in the process for sure. Although, arguably, like the end of that, I mean, it's not necessarily bludgeoning. I think she does a good job of disguising it and maybe like a bit of like just she does do a good job of showing rather than telling, I will say. You put yourself through this, so why not? That's not a bad idea. Like, one of the things that I like about hers here is that she does do the showing of it, and she leaves the interpretation up to you, which I think is a good way to write a novel. But it did seem like she was leading us in the direction of understanding forgiveness. and really what revenge will do to a person. It makes me really curious to read The Count of Monte Cristo now, and to really like understand that revenge tale, because that's a very different revenge tale than this one. This one is like, how revenge will eat you from the inside. Maybe The Count of Monte Cristo is about that. I don't really know because I don't remember that much. It'd be interesting to check that out. I am so glad that I never have to read this book again. Still, even at the end, there's not like a character that I love or that I'm really rooting for. I'm just happy. One thing that I really love too is Hareton was really like Hareton was the child of he was like the third generation of these people that were just making terrible decisions and were being awful to each other. And he's the one that I feel like Hareton is really the one that breaks the cycle. Yeah, she definitely assumes a smart audience. Definitely. But I think Hareton, obviously Hareton and Kathy are probably my favorite characters. I do like Nellie too. I like that Kathy extends the idea of like, will you forgive me? And they go off, and I think there's even a power in the idea of like them getting together at the end. It's not just like, will you forgive me and can we just like live at harmony? There's like a little bit of romance between the two of them. Like he has overlooked her wrongs and like has given her a second chance, and she's like really upholding that very well, and she's doing very well in that second chance. Yeah, Hareton is really disguised. I actually kind of agree with that. Like he's kind of just in the background of this novel a lot. It's a really good point. Ugh. Yeah, it's such a funny point too, because like I feel like there's so much to deep dive into this novel right now, but I have zero desire to go back and read anything else, any other chapter in this. I don't want to literally analyze this. I want to make a few more videos about this, talking about what I'm talking about here and what I just talked about in some of these, and then I just want to move on and throw this book into the bookshelf in my neighborhood and then get away from it. Zero desire to do any literary criticism on this. Of really doing a deep dive into it. Ugh. This one was just exhausting. Like, again, I appreciate the writing, but it just took a toll. So it was very much a good lesson. It's Emily's only book. Praise me. Yeah, it is a great point too that I do think this book teaches a very valuable lesson. Yeah, exactly, Nemo. You could talk about this book for a long time, but really have very little desire to reread it. Again, is like a very good lesson in this book, I think, of really just a cautionary tale against what not forgiving someone will do to you. And it's like I feel like it's a pretty realistic depiction too, but that dude definitely has some issues, fixation of some kind. Oh, I'm glad that you didn't hate the book. Didn't love it, but didn't hate it. That's a fair point. I don't know how many people that would like love this book. I feel like people read it and they were like, I have no problem with someone saying like, oh, it's like a great, like greatly written book. But I don't know if anybody's going, I just love this. Just love the characters. Can't get enough of them. If anybody's saying that, that's the biggest red flag ever. She had plans for a second book. That's sad. Ruth, I will leave all the literary criticism to you. All that belongs to you, because I am tapping out of this book. I'm going to make a few more videos about it, but ooh. Yeah, not my favorite either, but definitely a warning about holding grudges. She says she hadn't read it since she was an emo teen. She said if she reread it, she'd probably be curious what she would think of it. No, we can't do another group read of this. We're gonna do the Scarlet Pimpernel next. I'm getting that book today. Actually, it's supposed to be delivered today. So, man, we'll probably start. We're gonna take a little bit of a breather. Probably start Tuesday. But there's a chance maybe. I mean, I said that with Wuthering Heights, and we started pretty immediately after. So if I have any time, I probably won't have time tomorrow. But if I have any time, maybe like Friday or the weekend, maybe we'll just pop in and do a quick, like maybe introduction, and do like a chapter or two of that. But I don't know. I don't know how long the chapters are. I don't know anything about that book, so we'll see. I'm going in totally blind. People say it's a Zorro and the French Revolution. That's all I know about that book. Seems kind of fun, but we'll see. All right, guys. We made it through. We did it. We got to the end. Oh, gosh. Man. Yeah, it's going to be Dracula or Frankenstein for the fall, probably. We'll see. This book belongs in a fall read. Let's be completely honest. If you're not going to join us for the next book, we'll see you in the next one after that, or the one after that. Hopefully you guys will join for those. But hopefully I'll see you guys in the next book. Carry the discussion onto Discord if you want to. There's tons of, we can talk about that for hours on Discord. We could probably keep talking about this. So I will see you guys. I'll see you guys soon. That's pretty much all I got to say about that. I'm very much glad that we're done. I think we're all kind of glad that we're done with this book. Looking forward to the next one, and I will see you guys soon. Peace.